Welcome to episode 95 of Geeks Who Like Sports. As always, I'm Ray Carcillo, joined by Lee Elias over in beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You guys know I'm here in LA. It's meh. But anyway, Lee, how are you doing today?
Well, Ray, I got a story for today. I didn't know if I was going to tell this, but I decided today I was. So I got a cortisone shot yesterday in the center of my foot on the left side. Right?
Fun.
And yeah, I've been having some problems with my foot. It's better now. The cortisone really helped. But what I want to bring this up, because this is the perfect Geeks Who Like Sports topic, is that I felt like an athlete again for the briefest of moments. When the doc came in, he's like, okay, cortisone. I said, I know cortisone. I've had cortisone. I said, all you need to do, this is funny. I said, I need you to show me exactly where you're putting the needle point in. And he goes, that's what you want? I said, yeah, I'm weird like this. I want to know exactly where it is that I can mentally prepare myself and I'll be good. I said, this is how I've always done it. He goes, most people don't want to know. I said, I want to know. And he points. He's like, right there. I was like, good, cool, do it. Did it. I was fine. And today I'm feeling much better. But we have no idea what happened. I woke up in the middle of the night on Saturday and my basically my posterior tibia joint on my right foot arch was strained, for those of you that are into that stuff. Anyway, feeling better today. It's about 65%. I'm going to be better. But yeah, man, I'm an aging, not professional athlete. And I felt like a young collegiate athlete, minor league athlete again for the briefest of times. That's my story. It's icy outside. Weather report. One more thing to talk about today. I got to give a shout out to my business partner and friend, Matt Eastman, in reverse order, friend first. He made me this 3D printed, for those of you watching the show, he made me this 3D printed Darth Vader pen holder, and he sent it to my house, and Lord Vader offers me the pen so I can do the bidding of the dark side every day.
Nice.
I just had to give a shout out. He took the time to 3D print this for me. Again, for those of you watching, nice. He's kneeling. He has a pen in his hand. It looks really good. It's showing up pretty dark on the screen right now, but thank you, Matt Eastman. I appreciate the. He has no geek genes at all. This is a guy who saw Infinity War and Endgame, didn't know anything about it. He didn't understand what was going on. He only saw it because his kids wanted to see it, which was a hilarious. I should have him come on to recap Endgame sometime as someone who's never watched any of the Marvel films. Yes. But he knows that I love Star Wars, and he took his time to make this Darth Vader for me, and I appreciate that. So I wanted to give him a shout out. He won't even listen to this episode, guaranteed. I'd have to send him this clip, but I wanted to say it to the geek world. And for those of you know Matt, let's spam him. Tell him that's an awesome Darth Vader. Can you make me one? And he'll be like, oh, and just kidding, don't make me one.
Well, maybe sell them. I don't know, but
3D printing. I think this took him 3-4 days to make.
Yeah, never mind. Not worth it, probably.
Yeah.
Anyway,
for
materials.
We'll sell them.
Also,
it's going to be
like
$2,000 a pop.
Copyrights and stuff, licensing.
What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say Darth Vader? This is Darth Seder. Seder. He's a Jewish Vader. Once a year on Passover, we have a Seder with him, and he offers, the horseradish and all the things that we eat that day.
Nice.
That's the only place I could go with that.
Funny enough, I actually hurt my foot this morning myself, actually.
No.
As I really badly jammed one of my toes, because even though I got a new bed frame with that reality TV show I was on a year ago, and I'm not used to having a bed frame, and it juts out like 3 inches from the mattress. Ow. And so I think this is like the 8th or 9th time that I really badly jammed a toe, because I continued to stub my toe on the end of the bed, even though I've had it for a year now. So that was a fun way to start my morning at 5 in the morning.
Which foot was it?
Left foot.
So my right foot is messed up. So if we traded feet, one of us would have 2 good feet and one of us would have 2 bad feet.
Yes, we actually talked about this yesterday. Lee and I are basically like 2 halves of a whole. Like he has astigmatism in his left eye, I have astigmatism in my right.
Wait, we can make one perfect human, and it would be like the movie Twins, right? Yeah. One of us would be Danny DeVito, and the other one would not be Arnold Schwarzenegger. So welcome to Aging Geeks That Like Sports.
Yes,
episode 95.
Couple of old guys here in our mid to late 30s.
Yeah. Geriatric geeks that like sports. The sad part is we're not even 40 yet. And everyone over 40 just tells me, it just gets way worse when you're 40. And thanks for that, by the way. It's always a great glimmer of hope.
I wish more people had warned me, though, about how bad it gets when you're in your 30s. Nobody really warns you about that. For me, it was about 33 when everything started to just go.
Well, this is what I'll tell everybody. When I hit 30 a while back, I remember thinking, man, I'm 30. I'm kind of getting older, and I feel older. And then I'm approaching 40, and now my attitude is, man, I feel young. I feel much younger. Yeah. They're both lies, apparently.
Yeah, it's whatever your truth, whatever you think your truth is. You live your truth. Speaking of your truth, your personal truth, and whatever you want to believe, that leads us into our first topic for the show. How about that?
That was a great intro. That was a great intro.
You.
If you're still here, we appreciate it. By the way, we're trying to grow the show, so please share this show with any friends you think that would enjoy it. Yes, we're plugging the show. We love this audience. We love the interaction.
Yes.
If you have any friends that would be part of our community you think would fit in, share the show. It always helps us. And then subscribe to us, obviously, on YouTube or wherever you listen to this. We do have to do a quick plug for that because this show is growing, and it's time for us to ask you for help. So thank you so much. And
yes,
again, this audience base is awesome. We love posting on our Facebook group because of all the interaction we get.
I really want this to be my job, and I need your guys' help to make that happen. Please spread the word.
That was desperate. No, I'm just kidding. He's right.
I do desperate. Desperate. Yeah. That's me, baby. Right. I am nothing.
Fake it till you make
desperate.
it.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
We are geeks who get paid to talk about sports and geekdom.
Yes.
I think that shirt.
Yes. We do have a big show for you, though. We got Super Bowl. We got all the sports we're talking about. We got trades all around, possible trade rumors in the NFL. We got hockey stuff. We got COVID protocols we're going to talk about there. As
always, if you want to skip to any topics or skip over a topic because of a spoiler alert, all the time codes for the episode are in the description. Just take a look. You can find it right where to go to get what you want to listen to or watch.
Yes, but as I was saying, live your truth, live your life, and that gets us into our first topic of the day, which, of course, is WandaVision Episode 5. WandaVision. Flourish! Yes. Things are really picking up now. Finally, it looks like we're turning a corner in the show. I think things are hurtling downhill. A lot of possibilities here. There's honestly, at this point, I think, there's so many theories, and me and Lee joke about this, that we put this out on our streamlounge.io. Be sure to tune in 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern every Friday on streamlounge.io.
Or watch the replay.
On streamlounge.io, part of Google Chrome extension. Me and Lee have so many theories at this point that one of them has to have hit, or some amalgamation of them, to what's going to happen in the last 4 episodes of WandaVision.
Right.
But this one, basically, it looks like we're going for the multiverse option, which we all kind of
That's the only thing to talk about from this episode.
Yes.
Right? The only thing to talk about this episode, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it,
yes.
as at the end, Quicksilver from the Fox universe shows up. Obviously, Ray and I are assuming that that's Quicksilver from the Fox universe. Here's why we're assuming that. Because if it's not, it's just going to be disappointing in so many ways, right?
Yes.
And I don't think Marvel's doing that. I think this is clearly a break into the multiverse, and I think it's genius. Now, the first things we have to talk about is just kind of the baseline, like, what are we excited about? And then we'll go into what the show is doing so well. Again, we're not going to do recaps if you've watched it or you haven't, right? If you want the recap, watch our streamline.io replay, and you'll get the full recap of our thoughts on it.
Right.
But this opens up such possibilities. I believe, this is now my Hail Mary, I believe we will see Hugh Jackman in WandaVision now. He's been trying to get into the MCU forever. He is far too old to be playing Wolverine consistently. Mm-hmm. I would not be surprised if we see him at some point. And potentially Patrick Stewart as an older Professor X. All right, now here's the reason why. And this is what makes me laugh, right? In Star Wars, in Mandalorian, they said that, well, Mark Hamill's not playing anybody, and we're done with the Skywalkers, and we're moving on. And then they absolutely put Luke Skywalker. Recently, as reported on this show, Patrick Stewart said, no, I'm done with Professor X. I'm not coming back. I don't believe you anymore, Marvel. You are absolutely okay lying to us to get us to go look another direction. This is the deal, everybody, with WandaVision. And I love this. I know it frustrates some of you to hell. Okay? Marvel's doing what they do best. After the first 2 to 4 episodes, we're like, well, Mephisto and this and that. Yeah. Now it's like 6 billion theories out there. This is where they're going. And that's exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
No one knows where the hell this thing is going, and I love it. That's exactly what we wanted, and you can feel the show turning more and more into a Marvel kind of, feeling as it goes on. But this is the truth. We could talk about any of the infinity amount of theories right now. The truth is this. Nobody knows where this is going except for the people in the show and the people at Disney. And that is awesome. I said this in week 1, Ray, and I know you'll back me up on this. I said that they have this planned in a way we will not expect what's coming. Yeah. All right? Again, it does look like Mephisto is in play. It does look like Agatha Harkness is in play.
Yes.
It does look like maybe even the White Vision is in play.
Yes.
All right.
We
and the
talked
multiverse
about that before
is in
on the
play.
show. There's
Right.
There's a lot of possibilities. Like, we've talked about this. There's possibilities of time travel. There's possibilities of a variety of villains, ranging from Mephisto, which seems to be more and more going that direction.
Yeah, which I'm comfortable with now if they decide to do that.
Yes. The way their things are going, I'm okay with it. But there's also still the possibilities of Kang the Conqueror. There's possibilities of time travel. They teased. They specifically Monica mentioned she's going to call up her aerospace engineer friend.
Yes.
Which everyone thinks it's got to be Reed Richards. It's got to be the Fantastic Four.
It should be Reed Richards. That's one of the more like obvious, in my opinion. That's one of the more like, hey, it's got to be him. Susan Storm, Reed Richards, the Fantastic Four, or all four of them, to be fair, and Doctor Doom. Like I said, something's going to happen there too. But at the end of the day, no one knows. Just we have no idea where this is going now, and it's awesome. The other thing I'll say too is that. One of the funny things I was thinking about the other day, Ray, and this is just one of those things I'm throwing out there, is we're kind of focused on the X-Men, the Fox X-Men, because obviously we saw Quicksilver. But then I started to open my mind again. I said, what other Marvel movie people are there that could show up? And then I started thinking everything from Blade to obviously the other Spider-Men, which we know are going to show up in the Spider-Verse.
And
I don't think we'll
Doctor
see them
Strange
here.
and Spider-Man 3, Yep.
Again, I don't think we'll see them here. All right.
Right.
Are they going to dare go into I don't think they will, but the animated universe or the comic book universe? I think it's too early for that.
Yes.
But with that said, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse totally did that. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where this is going to go. I'm going to say this. I know it's very frustrating that everybody wants to know. And I mean, I'm not just talking to you. I get that. But I'm also excited. I take a different perspective. I'm like, I love that I don't know. How often in our lives right now, especially right now, do we not know what's going to happen next in something enjoyable? I'm not talking about.
I was gonna say in real life every day. I have no idea what's coming.
This is my point. This is my point. Because of the pandemic, we're waking up every day, and you kind of know it's another day in the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Right, so there is too much monotony right now in all of our lives. I firmly believe that's it's a Groundhog Day scenario almost every day when you really think about it. How refreshing is it to not know what's going to happen in a Marvel film? Keeping in mind too, like we haven't had Marvel in over a year. I think people forgot how to enjoy this stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, it's also I think that folks. I mean, we've talked about this before, and myself included in this. A lot of times when we watch shows, we're binging them. Even me, a lot of times I won't watch a show week to week. I'll wait till it's done, and then I'll binge it.
Right.
Like I don't watch a lot of stuff week to week.
That's totally the way
anymore.
you've always consumed. To be fair to Ray, like Ray's never been a big TV guy.
Mandalorian was the first time I think since I was a kid that I was really watching something week to week.
And as you
obviously
said,
that's a very different show.
Mandalorian did that. Mandalorian did that better because again there was a payoff outside episode 2 of
because it's a very different show, right? Where obviously there's more of a mystery driving this. Like you mentioned last week, this has a very Lost vibe. Mandalorian was you're gonna have an episode that's a beginning, middle, and end with little bits and pieces that are also pushing this whole season
that you're okay
forward.
waiting for.
Right. This is. Chapter by chapter, it is one.
This is
big
you going.
story.
Give me the answer already. I'm a comic book genius, and I want to know where you're going with this.
Yes,
and I do.
There is no. Each episode doesn't have a proper beginning, middle, and end. It's just a continuation.
I just called you a comic book genius. I said it.
I
said it out loud on the air because you are.
I am a comic book genius.
But you are. You are. I'm not even going to be sarcastic about that. This is all I'll say, Ray, is that and again, nobody has to agree with me. I firmly enjoy the thought as much as my anticipation wants to see it. I enjoy that I get to look forward to something every week. I enjoy that on Fridays I go, hey, I get to watch WandaVision today, both by myself and with my best friend and all the people that watch with us on Streamline. I like that. It's the little things like that I enjoy. If they put it all out at once and we binged it, we wouldn't even be talking about it anymore. We would just know. Yeah. And I think that from my point of view, I'm very appreciative of having that in my life, that I have something to look forward to every week. Again, not many people have that right now. I don't think, in my opinion.
That's very, very true. That's very, very true.
And
also just very briefly want to mention one of the key things from this, we mentioned Quicksilver again. Darcy specifically mentions that he's been recast.
Right.
Which basically, again, also insinuates that this is a different Quicksilver, that this is from a different universe. And it also, the other big thing from this week's episode is that we are getting the sense now that even though Wanda wants to keep the illusion going, she was not the one who started this, because she mentioned several times, I don't know what the catalyst is. There's an outside. She mentions that when the doorbell rings, she didn't have anything to do with it. When it was Quicksilver, it feels like that there's something.
Yeah.
What was that?
She said, "I don't even know how I got here."
Exactly.
And Vision has no memory prior to.
Right. She insinuates that there was something else going on here, possibly someone else controlling her mind. Also, by the way, there's a great moment where she steps outside the bubble, and credit to Elizabeth Olsen with that really subtle Eastern European accent that she slipped back into. Yeah, exactly. With the drone, phenomenal job. They're also setting up the idea that this is another big theory out there. This takes place a month after the blip. Spider-Man Far From Home took place about 6 to 8 months after the blip. And at the end of that, we see Nick Fury in space with the Skrulls, kind of insinuating that maybe he's in charge of S.W.O.R.D. What's his name here? Hayward from S.W.O.R.D. It's insinuated a little bit here that they were experimenting on Vision when he did that's not what he wanted, and that could be part of the reason why. That was part of Wanda's possible motivation for getting the Vision's body back. I think that Hayward's not going to be a very good guy in the end, and that you're going to see there's going to be a massive power shift in S.W.O.R.D. by the time this show is done, and setting up Far From Home's end credits.
I'm not fully convinced that S.W.O.R.D. is what it looks to be, and I don't mean just that. It's an organization. I think it's very weird that we didn't know about S.W.O.R.D. in the MCU. Part of me, and this is one of those out there ones. I wonder if are we actually seeing the mainline MCU universe right now, or is this a different timeline? Like S.W.O.R.D. just showed up, or is S.W.O.R.D. S.H.I.E.L.D.? I don't know. There's a lot of things, and again, I'm going to go back to what I said. We don't know, and this is something that Marvel has literally mastered at this point. Is when they tell you something point blank in the show, there's a 50-50 chance it's real or it's not real. Yeah. Because they're intentionally trying to give you red herrings. And the best part is we never know. We did say, to our credit, and most of you had agreed with us on this, that this show is just not what it seems on the surface. We said that very early on. Yeah. That there are aspects of, we knew this was going to happen. And we've both been saying that, you know what, there's episode 3. Yeah. This is going someplace that I don't think anyone really expects. Yeah. And again, some of the predictions will be right, some of them won't. But I think the one thing Marvel has done so well is that they always get to an outcome that no one really predicted.
Yeah.
All right.
No, for sure. And
very rare.
There's a lot going on in this episode. Again, I still think Monica Rambeau is going to get her powers from a combination of the blast and being sent back through the bubble forcibly. There was a specific moment there where all her vitals were like, they did blood work and it's just all blank because they couldn't get a reading on anything that from her. So I think she's going to develop powers at some point. She's
going to become Photon.
Totally. Yeah, no, I think she's going to full blown become Photon.
Yeah.
And I think that. Awesome. I think that, look, the bubble's going to be a big thing. We called the bubble very, very early. And I think that could be, you could see a lot happening. Again, if they bring in Reed Richards, if they bring in any of that, stuff, the bubble and the energy that's keeping it in place, the cosmic radiation, would be an easy way of not having to send the Fantastic Four into space, but also having them still bombarded by cosmic rays. So there's a lot that they could do there. There's a lot potentially happening. That leads us also into something that might happen is a Jimmy Woo spinoff. This was promoted on Twitter. A director basically said, I would love to write a pitch for a comedic X-Files starring Jimmy Woo, a.k.a. Randall Park, and Darcy, of course, Kat Dennings, because they've been, obviously, for me, the past couple episodes, a huge bright spot in the show. They are the pure comedy relief, but they've been terrific. A lot of fun. The characters are a lot more fleshed out here than they ever were in the movies that they were in. And just absolutely terrific. I would love this idea. I would love if they did a Jimmy Woo. And also, it'd be an easy way to then set up Agents of Atlas, which is what Jimmy Woo ends up heading up now in the Marvel comics, as after he leaves Shield and whatnot and moves forward. Obviously, he's in the FBI here, but he later joins Shield in the comics and all this other stuff. I think it'd be a great way as a segue into Agents of Atlas. And Randall Park, after it came to his attention, of course, said, "Sign me up. I'm on board." So
I want to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the deal. Yeah, I think we spoke last week about how even the minor characters in the MCU can have spinoffs and work great. Yeah. I think this is something actually Marvel did not too well in the beginning with Agent Carter, which was a really good show and didn't get the credit it deserved. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., again, they were okay. But the thing is,
I only watched the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I was like, I don't want to watch this
well,
anymore.
because you didn't need to watch it to further the story. And again, that was always the big drawback with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter, is that you didn't need to watch them to continue on.
They weren't integrated into the larger MCU enough.
They were minor characters and they made them minor shows.
Yeah.
Whereas WandaVision obviously does not. You have to watch this, right?
Yeah.
So if they can figure that out, and again, now that we have Disney Plus, it changes everything. It's not on network television. Yeah. They could absolutely do that. I think the other thing too that Disney can do, Ray, that or I should say streaming can do, that is not typical of television, is they can do one season. They can, we're not going to see a second season of WandaVision.
No.
You know what I mean? So it's they can do these. It's called limited series. Right? Where you could do 1 to 3 seasons of something, or series if you live in the United Kingdom, and it works, right? But the one-off TV show, which by the way, I did want to bring this up, it's always better when shows are shorter and they have a destination. Okay, one of the things that killed Lost, and a lot of shows on TV, even Game of Thrones to some extent, is they went too long. Yes. Because they were trying to get more money. The writers of Lost, J.J. Abrams and David Bidenoff, I can't say his name right, they wanted to end that show, I think, in season 5, and they were forced to write 3 more seasons.
Yeah.
And it was a mistake. It was a big mistake. You know what I mean? English shows, the UK makes really great shows, Doctor Who included, but Doctor Who falls into this too because they only do 2 to 3 seasons, and then they move on. Right, yeah. And there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and they move on. They're not afraid of that.
Every Doctor has their own arc, and then when that arc is over, you still have these crazy adventures, but you change the Doctor, and this Doctor now has a completely
new show.
Different.
It's like a new show.
Right.
Another reason why they need to bring back Quantum Leap, going back to episode whatever. But that's something that streaming is going to be able to do really well, and I think that a lot of the streaming services are going to figure that out. Real quick, we do have to mention new streaming service coming. Paramount Plus announced at the Super Bowl.
It's CBS All Access is becoming Paramount Plus.
Okay, that makes more sense because I was arguing. I was like, well, I guess they're going to take Star Trek off CBS All Access.
No, because that's the same parent company. They're basically just rebranding it,
right? Good to know.
Which makes little sense because CBS to me is a more recognizable brand for television than Paramount. Maybe. But again, Hollywood doesn't know what they're doing. Everybody's pressing the panic button, and there's a lot of stupid people out here.
I think that's going to do well. I think they have some pretty powerful properties there. We got to jump back into the MCU in a minute, but I wanted to mention that because I realized we didn't put that in the rundown today. But Paramount Plus, they have Star Trek. They have a lot of properties that they can do well. But Disney is, in my opinion, the gold standard right now of streaming.
Yeah, I'll agree. And I'll also say this. I'll also say HBO Max has actually done a pretty good job of becoming a contender pretty quickly.
They need more content.
Learning from a lot of their mistakes from DC Universe, which, again, I've said from the very beginning, even as somebody who worked on it, that this is just a test run for a bigger thing.
They need more content. The difference between Disney and HBO for me is that HBO has a limited library right now that I could exhaust very quickly.
Yes.
And they need more content. They need Snyder Cut to be good.
Yep.
They need it to be good. I actually wish they didn't make it a 4-hour movie. I wish they had just made it even two-hour movies. But they need more content. They need to lean on DC's content a bit more, and just more content in general. I mean, and what they're banking on is this Game of Thrones spinoff. Amazon's banking on their Lord of the Rings spinoff. Everybody's banking on one property where Disney's like, Star Wars, Marvel, National Geographic, Disney movies, and Pixar.
They're leaning. Everything has stuff in production, and that's why the mouse is dominating media right now. The Simpsons, all of that stuff. Like they've got. It's and speaking of more Disney Plus shows, it's been revealed that Don Cheadle's War Machine will have some sort of role in Falcon and the Winter Soldier when that
Probably
debuts
a
on
mentor
March
role.
19th.
This is going to be Don Cheadle's role. Ready? This is what Tony would have wanted. This is what Tony would have wanted. That's going to be his role. You want to be Captain?
Yeah.
This is what Tony would have wanted. He's dead.
Yeah.
This is what he
exactly. I'm Tony's best friend. It's like you guys were Cap's best friend, and now we're gonna have a weird, awkward thing where it's basically like we're gonna probably just maybe have a misunderstanding and maybe a quick fight, and then we're gonna go after Baron Zemo. So. Which, by the way, they did the trailer. The trailer for that debuted during the Super Bowl. By the way, they showed Baron Zemo with his purple mask. Finally, like it. I'm very excited for Falcon Winter Soldier. I think again, this is gonna have a very different feel. It's gonna have probably more of a Mandalorian feel than WandaVision does, which obviously is setting up a lot more stuff in the movies, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Like the trailer was great. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. It's on our Facebook page, or you can just go find it. Again. Very ominous. We don't really know what they're doing. All we know is that Baron Zemo is after something.
He wants to I'm going to finish
right?
what I started.
Right. We know that Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they were tossing around Cap's shield, kind of insinuating we don't know where that's going to go.
Yep.
If it goes anywhere. And then, it just did a great job of getting you excited for it. Like I said, I don't want to go in. We'll have another show when it gets close about predictions.
Yeah,
but,
we're about 38 days away now from the debut of Falcon and Winter Soldier.
We're gonna hop from WandaVision right to that. It's gonna be
great. It's basically similar. It's kind of like it was like with Mandalorian. You're gonna get a week or two off, and then it's gonna jump right into Falcon and Winter Soldier.
They're spoiling us so much.
Yes, they're just gonna. It's gonna just keep on going. Black Widow. Who knows when that's coming? But the TV shows are just gonna keep on rolling.
That's right.
So
actually, Black Widow is supposed to come out right after that.
Supposed to.
We'll
I think May 7th now is the date, but
I can't see them pushing it off again. It's going to just...
Because it had been rumored that several movies we talked about this, did get pushed to the fall, but it does look like that not WandaVision, Black Widow was one of the movies that Disney was like, no, this one's going to stay pat. This will drop May 7th now.
It's because they've reached the point of they can't not release it and have things make sense, I think.
Yeah, because they already not releasing that and other things has forced them to delay Shang-Chi a few months. It's forced them to delay Spider-Man 3 until December.
It's like a year. We're coming up on a year.
Yeah. So, we're at this point, just put Black Widow out there. We're kind of all sick of waiting, and you're not doing a service to the character.
People will understand at this point if you put it out.
Yes, like exactly.
And Wonder Woman gave you the keys to do that, in my opinion.
Yes, and I'm fairly confident Black Widow will be better than Wonder Woman 84.
Real high bar.
I mean, exactly.
Real high bar.
Yeah, just got to lift the leg and step over it. All right, here we go.
Do you play bowling with bumpers? Go ahead.
We mentioned Spider-Man 3. There's other talks now about because there's still this other universe, Venom 2, a Morbius movie from Sony. There's supposed to be other stuff. Supposedly they want to do a Kraven the Hunter movie, which a lot of these villains honestly don't really need their own standalone movies, but Sony is grasping at straws here. But they've talked about they want Keanu Reeves to play Kraven the Hunter. And the internet is very split on this decision, myself included. I mean, obviously, Keanu is a terrific actor. But I don't know if this is the character I think I'd want for him in the Marvel or Spider-Man universe.
Yeah, with Keanu, it's this. I think he could do it. I think he could do it big time. But then I step back. I'm like, but there's so many better characters that he could do, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. You get worried that they're going to waste a great actor on a character that's not going to stick. Yeah. You know what I mean? He could pull it off. I mean, especially if we're getting John Wick as Kraven the Hunter, that'd be kind of cool. But I think there's way bigger MCU villains that he could be portraying.
Yeah.
Keanu's an interesting cat here, man. We got to remember, we have The Matrix 4 and John Wick 4 dropping the same week.
Yeah.
This year, and those are his bread and butter in terms of his career outside Bill and Ted, which he also dropped this year, which is getting really rave reviews. Yeah. Which is incredible. I was worried that wasn't going to do well, and it did really, really well. I'm a Bill and Ted fan. So he also has to think of his career. He's distanced himself perfectly from Cyberpunk. Nobody's blaming him for that.
Everybody understands he's just the voice model.
Well, listen, he went all in on that with the production studio, and they failed him, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we're going to get into more of that later, by the way.
And I think, Ray, you did say that Johnny Silverarm, his character in that game, was actually the only quite
like. To me, it was only the only good spot. I hated the main
Right.
character. I hated most of the other characters didn't have any fleshing out whatsoever. Yeah, Keanu's character. You should have just played as Keanu Reeves. That's it.
No, it's too easy. Well, and I won't spoil that character for anybody, but what I'll say is this: is that I can hear Keanu's PR person calling Cyberpunk like, you need to pull all these commercials immediately with him in it. That's not representative of what Keanu does.
Yeah,
but Keanu Reeves is a very special actor, a little bit of a one-trick pony, but it's like Kevin Costner. Nobody does it as well as him.
right.
And that's not always the easiest thing to pull off, right? He's one of the very few actors that can pull off the same role over and over and over again, and you'll go to see him. Also, a tremendous human being. So if
nicest
Marvel
guy in the
or
world,
Fox
supposedly.
or DC is going to use him well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, like that also means he shouldn't be playing with someone with too much range. But,
yeah, I mean,
maybe
and Kraven is a bit of a one-note villain in that regard, but I just don't. There's so many other characters I think that he could probably play, and I think that would that I think he would fit in the more you look at it, and I just don't think. But the internet came up with one which I liked a lot better for Kraven, was Carl Urban.
Right.
Like Carl Urban, also another great actor, underrated actor, who very much
diabolical
can play anything you stick him into.
Well, technically,
dude was Judge Dredd, did a great job with that.
He did do a great job in that movie in Dredd,
yes.
and nobody saw it. It killed me because that was
a really great that was Judge Dredd. I want a sequel of that.
I'll never forget him going, "Citizen Mama," just like that. Yeah, that was a great video game-esque movie of a comic book character. Yeah. Obviously, he's in The Boys. He's doing a great job in that. Now, Ray, is The Boys DC or Marvel, or neither?
Neither.
It was
pretty sure it's neither.
Look that up real quick, because I was thinking, how funny would that be if that ended up in one of the universe?
It was original. It was originally published by Wildstorm, which has since been acquired by DC Comics.
Okay, I knew it was one of the major ones now. So we were both. So
originally,
as usual.
Originally, it was not DC, but now it is.
Can you imagine if he showed up in the DCU? I believe in truth and justice. Right, mate. Just comes in there and beats up Superman. I kill people like you. Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about.
But that's why I think somebody like him. I think he'd be great as a Kraven the Hunter. I think as a real, not campy, but kind of a little over the top, and that's what Kraven is.
I just don't know if Kraven's the guy I want to see right now. Look, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at. Keeping in mind these studios.
And again, obviously, they're clearly trying to set up the Sinister Six. By the way, that's clearly
but
what
they tried that once and they failed already. So my attitude is this: I got to see where they're going with Spider-Man 3. Yeah. Right. And I again, I'm very analytical with things, right? This is where I'm at right now. I want to see how they're going to do the multiverse. Mm-hmm. Right. And see if that makes sense before I start thinking, because the multiverse, man, it changes everything. I mean, we have Alfred Molina coming back as Doc Ock. Mike Keaton's coming back as Batman. We got to give this some time to breathe. And I think Marvel's doing it right with WandaVision, because it's clear they're going towards their multiverse. Clear. Right. Yeah. And I think they're doing it right. They're taking their time. They're going to show you it slowly. They're going to let it marinate so you can understand it. DC is just like, here's Batman, and here's another Batman, and there's another Batman because you love Batman. Yeah. Martha, why did you say that name?
Yeah, and it's the one character we only screw up half the time, whereas instead of 90% of the time like everyone else.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment.
Yeah. So, but speaking of Spider-Man a lot, Tom Holland came out interestingly this week.
Yes.
There's been a lot of talk about, so No Time to Die has been delayed again. That has been pushed back to Thanksgiving of this year again, or around there. And again, of course, this is the last Daniel Craig movie. It's been in the can. They're milking it for all it's worth. But he's done. He's pushing 60. It's obviously a very physical role. And even though he looks great, it's a lot on his body. And he's like, I'm done. Yeah. So we need a new James Bond. And we've been...
I did it. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been discussing this for forever. We've heard everybody from Henry Cavill to Idris Elba. Well, Tom Holland, after finishing the Uncharted movie, was like, hey, I'm actually British. I should be the next James Bond. And a lot of people, again, the internet very, very split on it. I'm actually, if you wanted someone to be in the role for a long time, I'll say this. I think if Tom Holland were to do it, he'd be more of a campy Roger Moore Bond, right? He's not the true dashing James Bond character that we typically think, right? We don't think of him as the ladies' man. In a way, it's in a way Tom Holland's almost too nice to be James Bond.
Yeah, he's not. This is what I think he suffers from right now with him saying this, is we haven't seen Uncharted, which I think is going to be a very different Tom Holland. We only know him from Billy Elliot and Spider-Man. So, we've never seen him flex his acting muscles in that role. Now, I can sit here right now and tell you that by far, Idris Elba should be James Bond. I mean, he is obvious for the role. He's not going to take it because of what happened and some questionable comments about him being too street because these idiots open their mouths too much. But Idris Elba, to me, would be the perfect James Bond. I'd even pick Henry Cavill over Tom Holland right now. But good for him for throwing his hat in there. I'm not saying he couldn't do it. Ray and I have both learned throughout the last decades that you don't judge a book until you read it. Don't judge a book by its cover. But no, I don't want to see him in that role. There's other actors I want to see in that role. And again, Idris Elba, he would be an awesome Bond. He would be an awesome Bond, and I wish they would do that. But yeah, look again, Bond is a bit of a one-trick pony himself. You know what I mean? Right. Actually, Keanu Reeves would be a great Bond, although they will never.
That's very true.
They will never cast an American.
Yeah, but no, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
But he would be a great James Bond. But again, you got to look at these roles. James Bond doesn't show much emotion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In fact, Daniel Craig did a really good job of bringing some other sides to James Bond that we'd never seen, especially in the first movie when they're torturing him.
Yeah.
That was a great scene. But, you got to think about things like this. And I'm not saying that an established wide-range actor can't play James Bond, but I don't want a campy James Bond, to be honest with you, Ray. That time's gone.
Yeah, Roger Moore was good for his time, right?
Yeah,
late 60s, 70s, and whatnot. Good for the era.
Yeah. Then the other question is, and we'll have to discuss this in another episode, but it's where do we even go with James Bond at this point?
No, that's true.
Where do we James Bond's heyday was when the Soviet Union was alive and well.
Yes.
GoldenEye did a great job of kind of tying that bow.
Yeah.
Right. And then they're jumping from one bad villain to the next. It's North Korea. Oh God, it's this people. Yeah. It's it's the Middle East. All right, well, maybe it's time to rethink where we're going with that. What is the biggest threat to British security?
Russia again.
It's gonna be America. You watch.
Maybe
they're gonna do us. Well, every American's gonna be sitting here wait, what'd you say?
Suddenly Felix turns evil.
Right. Right.
Felix Unger, played by Jeffrey Wright, wearing a MAGA hat.
Right. To be fair to the UK, they have always made America the dumb ally in James Bond, but that has the answers.
Everything, the Kingsman, everything they
right,
do. So.
Right, yeah. I actually enjoy watching their caricaturism of America. It's good. It's good to see as an American, to see how other people see us sometimes. Mm-hmm. But that's a discussion for another time. You should definitely comment below. Where does James Bond even go? And I have the answer, Ray.
Oh,
multiverse. All the James Bonds come back to Pierce Brosnan with his white hair. And he goes, I am invincible. No, okay. I don't know where they're going to go with that.
That was Alan Cumming.
I know. I just
later played Nightcrawler.
Right. Very well, by the way.
Yes, he was a fantastic Nightcrawler.
So I don't know where James Bond can go. I think the Daniel Craig iteration actually did something different and good, but I actually don't think it worked. James Bonds are always better as one-off films. And that's going to be a problem for them. That's going to be a problem for them, is that, they had to figure that part out too. But where's James Bond going? To be continued.
Yes, and actually a little different on our outline, Lee. I'm gonna move the next section further down for a transition. Sure. But speaking of not knowing where things are going, E3 announced yesterday that there might not be an E3 this year. If there is, they're very much, there was no E3 last year for obvious reasons. It was the height of the pandemic. But if there is an E3 this year, they're probably leaning towards full digital. As optimistic as they were, unfortunately, it looks less and less likely that we'll have a lot of people vaccinated here in the country by mid-June.
Right. No, they're playing it safe.
Yes, exactly. Playing it safe. The ESA members, all the publishers still have to vote on this idea that they put forward. So again, that's why there might not be another E3 this year. They might not want to go the digital route. It's kind of a hit or miss thing, especially when it comes to news. And you saw last year from Sony and Microsoft, it might just be better for each company to just pick a day sometime in the summer and do their own thing instead of trying to cram it all into a week worth of content in the middle of June.
Right. For sure.
You had a lot of play last year with Sony and Microsoft picking days about a month apart from each other. You might see that again here with some companies. So there might not be an E3, but it's a big deal for a lot of folks. A lot of folks think that if there is no E3 this year, that E3 is basically dead. This is a big deal because for 25 years, E3 has been the video game trade show. But as times have changed, as things are going more digital, as obviously kind of spearheaded by the fact Nintendo pulled out, EA pulled out. Sony was talking about pulling out this year even before all of this talk about a digital E3, is that a lot of these companies are like, we can just do our own thing now with the way technology works. We don't need to all get together in the crappy LA Convention Center on top of each other in the middle of June, so it's 100 degrees outside, and and everybody's like sweating and dying and lining up for the $10 Starbucks that's in the middle of the convention center. I have a little experience with this, but so it's very interesting. It could be the end of E3, and the thing is I want to know. I don't know, but I don't. The games industry need a trade show anymore, considering how digital everything it was moving even before this.
What they need is something we've talked about on this show many times: innovation. They need to innovate what they're doing. Let's be very real here. This is something that people haven't talked about enough. Number one, as of today, today's date is February 9th, 2021. As we're recording this
Tuesday, February 9th, 2021.
We are 6 months minimum away from having the discussion of, can we start to be in public again?
Yeah.
6 months from now. So in my opinion, we are a year away. That might hurt some of you, but we are a year away from massive gatherings. I'm talking sports arenas, massively, 20,000 people, 100,000 people, E3 convention centers. And Ray, having been to a few of those myself, I don't wish to be in a room, even post-COVID, with sweaty people shaking hands, and that's what happens. All right.
I freak out when people walk into my laundry room without a mask on.
It's not a safe environment right now, is what I'll say. It really wasn't a safe environment before, but we don't talk about that. So this is the deal. Innovate. Ray, you're absolutely right. Companies can do this on their own. We saw athletes do this when The Athletic came out. That's kind of a precursor to all this. It was way ahead of its time, right? So the question really comes back to you of what can E3 do differently? All right, it's a big brand. There's a lot of money behind that brand name, E3. So there's still value there. But what are you going to do? Maybe E3 needs to host something, right? Maybe E3 needs to have, you said, a digital convention this year where people can show their stuff off in one place. But look, if this is what's going to start happening with trade shows. As you said, the big companies are going to pull out. They don't need the help anymore. And I've been seeing this at hockey trade shows, to be honest with you. All right, like the big names in hockey, Bauer, CCM, they don't go to trade shows anymore. You know why? Because you know who they are, and they can release their own news.
Yep.
So what's going to start happening is these trade shows are going to start to see the minor companies or the independent companies. That's going to be their showcase. Mm-hmm. And E3 is going to have to evolve and make that a big deal.
Yeah.
Right. And they should. Like I own a small hockey company. I have multiple small hockey companies. I love the exposure. I love going to trade shows when we could because it allows me to meet new people in an audience. So they got to rethink it. They've got to innovate. It's just like the movie theaters. You got to stop holding on to pre-COVID ideas and thoughts. They are not going to work anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And the sooner companies, organizations, and groups embrace that. And I mean the word embrace, Ray, because that's what you got to do and take a positive approach. And you can already see the companies that are doing it well. Look, one we don't talk about. Look at DoorDash, Uber Eats, and all of those apps that can bring food to your house. Which if you haven't done, again, if you live in an area where you wouldn't want to do it, I get it. But that's changed everything. Everything is changing. Every report coming out says that technology has made a 10-year jump in 1 year.
Yeah.
Right? You jump on or you're going to lose out from a business standpoint. All right. Even a consumer standpoint, jump on, things are going to change. I have an Amazon grocery store opening in my town soon.
Yeah.
All right. Don't fight it. Embrace it. And if you don't like Amazon, don't use it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes. I don't use Amazon.
I do. But that's okay.
Yeah, well, I don't need it. I don't have any.
You don't need it, and to be honest with you, where you live, you can't trust the delivery, and that's
also true.
That's the game changer for me. If you lived in a town where the delivery wasn't a problem, you'd probably be a little more open to it.
Yeah, no, I've had enough porch pirates that I don't really.
That's what I'm saying. I get that.
I don't want. Yeah, I don't need to deal with that. I'll just go. I'll go pick it up.
So
I'll order ahead and I'll go pick it up and I'll just go run out. Like
I have a vicious dog that will eat you if you try and break into my house.
Yes.
But once you break in, she'll probably want you to pet her. But you don't know that if you're on the outside. So that's
true. She'll bark a lot, and she sounds ferocious, but she's not.
She's just really saying, I need you to love me. They don't feed me. I haven't eaten in 17 days. I'm like, Luna, I just fed you an hour ago. Ah! I have a very needy dog. And
but it's true. It's funny. I mean, the thing is a lot of us, even in the industry, have kind of been saying this in the down low for years anyway, that we don't really need E3 anymore. A lot of us just go to the conventions because it's an excuse for us to see our friends. Like, that's really it, honestly, folks. Surprise,
surprise.
Community.
It's a community. Okay.
Yes, it's a community experience.
Ray and I have done a few conventions together, both as guests, both as hosts, and both as digital hosts. And I'm always amazed at the community.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the best part of it. And if they can find a way to capture that, that's where I would start. That's the value. Right, to me, is the communities that you create. Like, we're trying to create a community here.
Yeah.
And it's funny, guys, because for those who listen to our show, Geeks for Ray and I, again, you might have heard the story about how this came to be, that we were having these conversations and we wanted to make a podcast, but Geeks is spawning into several other projects for us that we can't talk about yet. But, it's turning into 2 or 3 or 4 different things based on the community that we're building. Yeah. So that's the power behind it. I think there's going to be a tremendous need, Ray, after the pandemic kind of subsides a bit, to have communities like this.
Yes.
We've found a way to do that digitally, but look, people, I've always said this, introvert, extrovert, people want to be part of something. Yeah. All right. And human beings we are animals. We are not meant to be apart like this.
Even I'm starting to crack, folks.
Yeah. All of us. Like I was telling Ray the other day, not to get serious for a minute, but like I said that, Ray knows I'm very aware of my surroundings. And I said that, I've been very fortunate in the pandemic in the sense that, like, I have my family with me. I have friends that we have a little pod here of people, obviously, with the other stuff that we do. So I still have a bit of a team around me all the time. But most people don't have that experience. And it's wearing on me now, right? So and I'm saying I'm with people. So we're going to have this need to get back together again. By the way, Operation Rescue Ray is on fully. He doesn't realize it yet, but we're going to kidnap him one day. It should be fun. But that's my point, is that, like, we need these communities. And I think that's what E3 needs to embrace. Find a way to embrace that.
Yes.
Jump on board. Get these communities to believe in you. Stop just looking at the bottom line. Look, Ray will back me up with this. I am a business expert. I consult businesses. All right. People bring me in to build teams. That's what I do outside of this show. All right. By far the biggest mistake is only looking at the bottom line. The bottom line, your revenue, is extremely important. You can't survive without it. Okay? Yeah. So I don't want anybody to think I'm saying forget about money. All right? But you can't get the money if people don't believe in what you're doing. And there needs to be some shifting of focus of, if we treat people differently, it'll naturally come in. There's this fear of just, I don't get the money, get the money. You're going to lose sight of it. Audiences are smart. People can talk more than they ever have before. If you're inauthentic and bullshit, for lack of a better word, you're going to lose out in the long term. All right? Yep. Sustainability is only through creating communities. Something that, by the way, Marvel has done better than anyone in the game right now. You can't not talk about what they're doing at any point of the year. Star Wars has finally figured that out.
Yep.
You know how keep people talking? Let's make 10 more shows.
Yeah.
They're figuring it out. Right? Yep. And they're leaning on the community. How many times have you heard about directors, Ray, that they listen to their communities and they base decisions on their communities?
Yes.
They get ideas from their communities. We're part of it. DC has always failed at that. Always.
Oh, yeah. Right? Oh, yeah. So, DC is good at pretending and giving lip service to their community, but trust me, folks, they legit don't care about you.
No.
They legit don't care.
Well, maybe that's changing, to be fair to them.
Maybe, yes. The new crop, at least when I was there, I can tell you they don't care. Right. They only cared about the bottom line and just trying to keep you happy enough for you to buy more stuff.
But E3,
they didn't believe anything they said.
All of that. Comic-Con, right?
Yeah.
The world's changing. You got to change too. Yes.
Yes, that brings us, speaking of changes, to our next thing, the Embracer Group. For those of you who don't know, these are the guys who own THQ Nordic. They own Deep Silver. They own Saber Interactive. They own a lot of gaming properties, really expanding a Swedish-based organization. They just acquired this week for $1.3 billion.
Low sum.
Gearbox, which is a big deal.
$1.3 billion.
Yeah, it's
this is such a small industry. Such a small industry, Ray.
They acquired Gearbox, who honestly, all Gearbox has, I mean, yes, it's a big property, but really all Gearbox has done that's been really successful the last 10 to 15 years has been, obviously, Borderlands, which, of course, they are turning into a movie now, which now also supposedly has Jamie Lee Curtis on board. I have no idea what she's doing in that. But, love her, but the more people who's signing on to that movie, the less excited I am for it.
I think the thing with Jamie Lee Curtis, Ray, is you and I remember her very differently. We remember her as obviously True Lies. Remember her in the original Halloweens, and she's kind of taken on much more of a motherly role recently in her films. So I'm very interested to see, when I look at her versus, and I love them both. When I look at like Sigourney Weaver and how she's continued her sci-fi career. Right. You know what I mean? It makes me wonder where Jamie Lee Curtis fits into this too. And again, I'm not saying she should be typecasted as a mother. It's whatever she wants to do, obviously, but it's going to be interesting.
But yeah, this was a big deal. Obviously, another acquisition by, and really their first really big North American acquisition. Again, most of what they own at this point, even Saber has an office here in the States, but their main office is in Spain. Again, Deep Silver's in Germany. Nordic THQ is in I think Norway. And these guys embrace
from the name. I would guess that, yeah.
Yeah, so somewhere in Scandinavia, right?
Yeah,
they're
up in the north,
right? Yes. Along with the Swedish space group. So this is their first real foray into an American group, where Gearbox, obviously, their main office is in Texas. So this is a big deal. Obviously, you're seeing this a lot. A lot of companies, a lot of major players in the game industry. It's a big time for acquisitions right now. EA is continuing to make acquisitions. Obviously, we've talked about Microsoft and what they've done the past year a lot here. Even Sony this week acquired 2% of the parent group that owns From Software, which might not sound a lot, but it's not From Software themselves, the developer. It's the parent group, which is a big company in Japan. I think Kurikawa. Not sure. Don't quote me on that one. But they acquired 2% of it. Which is a big deal, obviously, From Software. They make the Dark Souls games, Bloodborne, Sony exclusives. There's games that have been traditionally Sony exclusive that it's kind of like, well, why didn't you guys start buying them earlier? It feels kind of like...
Why. It's because Microsoft is... part of this game with Microsoft is this. Microsoft has way more money than Sony. Okay?
Yeah, this is Sony's sad response to what Microsoft's doing.
Right. Well, and this is a common game in business. It's the same thing in bidding. Right? So Microsoft will buy and buy and buy, forcing Sony to buy and slowly bankrupt themselves. That's what's happening. We've seen this happen before. Right? Yeah. So Microsoft has plenty of cash to burn. Yeah. Right? And they're buying great companies, by the way. Like, they're not buying companies that are like, going under. So what they're going to do is they're going to squeeze Sony that you better keep up, and they're going to run out of gas, or in this case, money. I'm going to say this again. I do not think we will see another PlayStation beyond this one. That's my theory.
Yeah, it's the more I think about it, and the more people I talk to, the more and more that prediction that Lee made several months ago might come to pass. Again, we've got a whole console generation to see how this shakes out. We've got Sony's not going anywhere overnight, folks.
No, but lots of things can happen too. Like if Xbox has a massive failure,
there could be a whole bunch of things.
I just think that it would be smart for Sony to start making more games for the Xbox. That would be my.
And again, we mentioned that last week. MLB The Show finally coming to Xbox. That's a big deal. And also, Sony finally announced this week that they're going to start allowing, for the first time, because they were the last one. Nintendo and Microsoft, very much early on when the Switch took off, Microsoft was like, yeah, we're going to allow cross-play with anything on Nintendo Switch. Minecraft, Fortnite, all that stuff. And now Sony finally is like, cross-play! And it only took them 5 years to finally, get on board with this idea.
Listen, Nintendo is the game changer, pun intended.
Yeah.
Right? They are the ones that... Nintendo is the Palpatine manipulating things that no one really thinks about behind the surface. Nintendo is the one that changes the game. There are so many games not on Switch because it was overlooked. And to be fair, there was some reason to overlook it in the early days of it.
Right.
Nintendo didn't exactly have a win before that, but the fact that Plants vs. Zombies, right? It's a very popular game with kids. Can't get it on the Switch.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? It's a game that needs to be on the Switch. Ghost of Tsushima, all these games that Ray's been playing, Uncharted, they all need to be on that system. So this goes back to an earlier theory, Ray, that console wars need to end. and you need to appease your audience.
Step towards that.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to say is that maybe take the Sega approach of you don't die, but you become a developer and not a console anymore. Yeah. All right, that was the original console war, Genesis versus Nintendo and Super Nintendo.
Now Sega makes most of their games for Nintendo.
Right, and they're still alive.
Yes.
All right, that's the key, and they make good games too.
Mostly.
All right, mostly good games too. That's fair. That's fair. But like who doesn't make bad games once in a while?
For sure. There's obviously everybody's going to miss every now and again. If you're EA or Activision, you miss a lot.
Like most of the time, or you just make the same game every year and say, "Well, what did you do this year? We slapped a 21 on it."
Yeah. Oh man. Oof. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with sports games in the next console generation for sure.
Look, on that note, real quick, I am so excited to be able to play the show. I really mean that. Right? I'm looking forward to getting that game.
Yes.
This just goes to show it's the right move to make. There's just, in my opinion, there's no reason anymore to hold on to some of these properties and not have. You're going to make more money if you go cross-platform.
Yeah.
I can't see that not happening.
Yeah.
Yes, you're going to devalue your system, but PlayStation is on its way out. I know a lot of PS people are not going to be happy to hear me say that, but it's the truth. Okay, yeah. Microsoft is going to crush them. I don't financially alone, they're gonna crush them.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can point to the sales and whatnot, but like at least for the time being. But Microsoft, look, at the end of the day, folks, hardware is nice, but this is a software selling industry, and at the end of the day, the fact that Microsoft has snatched up so many studios shows that they are being more software centric.
Right, you're not gonna even need a system next time. That's what I'm trying to say. Is that 10 years from now, you're not gonna need a box.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's just going to be an app.
Well, that's the thing, and that's where, again, we talked about it last week, where obviously Stadia is having problems, but that's what happens. The first one through the wall is always the one that gets most bloody, but it's going to happen where systems are just going to stream, and we're going to get to that
What do you think? A console generation 7 to 10 years, right, Ray?
Yes.
What do you think Wi-Fi, 7G, like what do you think the streaming, unless we have some EMP go off and go to war, what do you think the internet capability is going to be in 7 years?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I think one of the things that's slowing it down, and that's kind of why hopefully that, especially here in America, the government gets their head out of their butt and helps fix the infrastructure and gets internet to all the places especially in middle America, that kind of so that they can compete with the coasts.
They will. They will in 7 years. I actually believe that.
I hope so.
And I think that
especially as the mass exoduses from the coasts are starting to happen.
I just completely believe that's going to happen, and I think that, like I said, gaming is going to change dramatically. Keeping in mind, too, the pandemic has advanced this. Like I said, the pandemic advanced technology in 10 years.
Yeah.
So I can't see this just not taking off the way we're talking about.
So, speaking of technological advances, somebody who needs a technological advance, CD Projekt Red. This broke late last night, early this morning. This was a big deal. It sounds like they've been hacked with ransomware, where basically a lot of their files and company personal information and all other stuff is being held hostage. They are actually being very transparent with this in order to try and basically take away the bargaining chips of the ransomers. This is some folks are trying to say this is a hoax. They're looking for pity, but from what it sounds like, this sounds legit. Yeah.
That would not be a good business plan to fake this.
Yeah. So I mean, look, I get that they're in trouble right now, but I don't think I don't think this would be a fake.
Ray, should we have someone hack our show?
No. No. Hacking is bad. As somebody who deals with it constantly, it is bad. Or at least getting hacked. Anyway, so CD Projekt Red, they're in even further trouble. And again, this is something that it feels like because they've even publicly released the note and all this other stuff.
Right, good. They were that's the smartest thing to do.
Like they basically, with a person, it feels like this is obviously a retaliation for how bad Cyberpunk was. And it's just toxic fans who feel that they are owed something and who they feel like they have this ownership of things to a toxic level, to a delusional level, to the point where now they are putting people's lives in danger because they're sad that their game was broken when they bought it for $60. So let's bring a $1 million company.
Yeah, no, it's great. We won't have games anymore. Good stuff, guys. Way to go.
Yeah, it
can't make mistakes. You're not allowed any mistakes.
Yeah.
So,
we've been very
breaking
critical
news, though, Ray.
We've been very critical of CD Projekt Red here. Again, we're not saying that what they did was great or smart or the right thing.
But
this is not how you solve these problems.
Breaking news: it looks like a new studio is just named DVD Project Blue. Will be coming out this winter with their new game Punks of Cyber.
Yes.
Cybertron. It's a Transformers game. Punks of Cybertron.
Actually,
Let's roll out.
Actually, that'd be great.
Yeah, the Punks of Cybertron.
Keanu Reeves now as Optimus Prime.
No, he's Johnny Silverado. Johnny Silverado.
Johnny Silverado. There you go.
Why won't anybody buy me? Anyway, they're just, when it rains, it pours. When troubles come, they come in battalions. CD Projekt Red having a rough year.
Yeah, very rough year. So hopefully that gets worked out. Obviously,
don't kick someone when they're down.
Yeah, the Polish government's already stepped in, obviously, to help out, as well as other security agencies and whatnot. So,
way to go, hackers.
Yeah,
you should have jumped on the Wall Street thing. You would have actually made money on that.
Yeah, it's just... I don't know. People are dumb.
Ray, you've said it. There is a larger than comfortable toxic element to the gaming community.
Yes.
Of people, like you said, that think they're owed.
Yeah.
And that it's a discussion for another show, but it is a toxic level of you're not owed anything. I think we need to be a little more gratuitous. I think we need to be a little more thankful. Show some gratitude that you have the ability to play some of these games right now. We've really lost the ability to be thankful. You know, not to go into a story, it's like my grandmother came over on a ship. She had to escape the Bolsheviks. She almost got killed. She was happy to have an apple.
Yeah.
Or toast.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk was broken. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
In a pandemic. Pandemic.
It's like 6
games.
months for them to fix it, folks. Like, what do you want? And they offered refunds. Yeah, they offered to give you your money back. Like...
Yeah.
Like, what else do you want?
Yeah, they're doing it right. They made a mistake and they're doing it right. That's what we should be talking about.
Yeah. So, I mean, they made a mistake and they're trying to make good on it. This does not help them make good on it. But more interesting things, speaking of the future, Valve, who, of course, with the HTC Vive headset with VR, obviously, the creators of Steam, as well as things like Left 4 Dead and a lot of great games, obviously Portal. The list goes on and on. They are working with a company called OpenBCI for a possible new VR set that basically would use brainwaves to play it, where it would be the future, where they're talking about things we've seen this before, science fiction becoming science fact. Supposedly this was released just a couple days ago, that they are working, Gabe Newell, they are working very hard with this company where it's basically brain cognitive intuition. I'm not sure I can't remember what BCI stands for, but basically where you would put on the headset over your head and then goggles would come down over your eyes, but that would be more a truer, to help simulate a truer simulation feel where it would tap into your brain waves. And I'm both super excited and super terrified of this, Lee. So
I'm terrified of you playing these things.
Yeah.
Look, it's going to be the same thing with VR as it always is.
Yeah.
We're in an experimental time with it still.
Yes.
At some point, someone will come along with the perfect VR experience, and it will revolutionize it and make it part of our normal day. I assume it's going to be something more like glasses than a helmet, but we'll see. It's an evolving technology that will continue to grow. The brainwave stuff, Elon Musk is working on that.
Yeah.
It's clearly the direction we're going. I don't know how far off that technology is. I'm going to guess 10 to 15 years before it's safe, and then probably 20 years before it's mainstream. But
the thing is that they're expecting VR to be more accepted by the mainstream in general, probably within the next 5 years. But this type of VR, I think your timeline's correct. It's probably 10 to 15 years, and then probably another 20.
My guess is that when we're older, 50s, 60s, probably 60s, 70s, 80s, really, this is going to be the thing that we're like, well, back in my day, we didn't have brainwave technology, and it's going to freak us out.
You know what a phone is?
Yeah. My parents are like freaked out to put their information online. Like, this is going to be like, I'm not putting my brainwaves in that microwave machine.
Yeah.
I see what it does to people. And it's going to probably be perfectly safe.
Again, science fiction turning into science fact. Like, this is a common occurrence. By the way, it's just still freaky to hear about.
When this happens, this is what Geeks Who Like Sports will look like.
For those of you who are listening, Lee is sending you the brainwaves right now of what he's thinking right now. He's making very up, and he's passed out. I believe he's had a seizure.
I'm okay. I'm back.
There we go.
Thank you for describing that to the audience.
Yeah, I was like, the faces.
I hope you heard
folks,
me.
You got to watch the video. The video to see the faces.
No. I hope you heard me. My brainwaves.
Through the brainwaves. Yes.
Goodness.
Well, we're not there yet, and one game that's not gonna be close. This is actually give a shout out. At least they gave me a review code, so we're gonna do a special review here on Geeks Who Like Sports for a game called Werewolf: The Apocalypse-Earthblood. For those of you who don't know, it's part of the World of Darkness series, probably best known for the cult classic Vampire the Masquerade, a game that came out I think like 15 to 20 years ago. The game is developed by Cyanide, published by Nacon. It is, and again, this all takes place. It's based on a tabletop role-playing series from White Wolf Publishing, which again does werewolves and vampires and stuff like that. And I think it probably would have been better sticking as a tabletop.
Well, I don't know, Ray. We're around that time period where vampires and werewolves come back. Every 10 years, there seems to be a new werewolf.
Well, and they're making a new vampire game, too, in that series.
Right.
Vampire the Masquerade is finally getting a long-awaited sequel. But this game in particular, it had some good ideas, but it had some really poor execution. This is why we call sometimes these games like this a budget title. Is because it looks like that they were working on a budget. The game is not a full $60, $70 game. It's a $50 game, I believe, right now. And typically, nowadays, you can't always judge a game by its price. But in the old days, you would kind of be a little wary of it. And this is definitely a game you should be wary of. You play as a eco-terrorist.
Wary of the werewolf game?
Yeah, be wary of the werewolf game. You play as an eco-terrorist, and your objective is to... you're protecting nature from this evil corporation called, I think it's called Encon, kind of like a play on Enron or Exxon, and they're polluting the world, and it's all because of the evil worm who represents death and destruction and people who have their minds under control. And you are a good eco-terrorist, you are a werewolf, and you're obviously trying to stop their fracking operation, and you're trying to stop their biofuel, which is actually going to pollute the world more. And that's basically the premise of the game. It's a third-person action RPG, but again, they don't go far enough with nearly enough of the ideas. The RPG system is very bare bones. It does have a couple of skill trees, but there's not a lot there. There's a stealth mechanic and an action mechanic, but you don't get anything really for doing the game stealthily. So most of the game, it's like, well, I'm a werewolf. I'm going to turn into a werewolf, and I'm going to rip all these guys' heads off because why would I want to stealth around them all when I could be a werewolf? It just felt like they didn't expand. They didn't expand on any of the ideas. Stealth mechanics are cool. The stealth isn't bad, but it's like, why? Listen, would I be stealthy?
I'm going to make a game. I'm going to give you the greatest weapons on the planet. Don't use them.
Exactly. It's exactly it. It's like, why would you do this? I mean, and then you
imagine Darth Vader just running behind the corridors, just
yeah.
Force power! I got you, bastard. It doesn't
yeah,
really work.
It feels.
You ever played Battlefront and you're Vader? You hide. No, you've never
exactly.
done that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. It is cool. I guess you can turn also fully into a wolf to sneak through vents and stuff. But again, and then when you're in your human form, you have a crossbow because, again, I guess gunpowder is bad for the environment. But I don't know. But it just felt like, no, just let me be the werewolf. Okay, and even that was okay. The combat wasn't bad as a werewolf, but it wasn't good either. I found myself spamming the same buttons over and over again because I felt like it didn't need to be and it was great. Look, I grabbed a guy, ripped his head off. It was awesome. It was blood everywhere, just blood everywhere. But it wasn't enough.
Isn't it time to bring back Altered Beast? Isn't it time to remake that title?
That's basically, what this would have been if somebody remade Altered Beast for the PS2. Because I also want to say that the graphics weren't great. I will say this, for a PS5 title, PS5, Xbox Series X, almost no load time. I will say that is the one good thing. Super quick moving, not a lot of glitches, but the animations looked poor. The voice acting was terrible. The writing was awful. I mean, look, I hate giving games a bad score, but the honest truth is this is a 4.5 out of 10.
Well, one of the things I've always respected about you, Ray, is that you've never bowed to any corporate pressure when giving a game's a rating. If you don't like it or it doesn't deserve a high rating, you don't give it to one. That's one of the lost talents of gaming journalism is being trustful.
Being honest.
Yeah, weird.
And look, and I'm very appreciative for the review code. I'm very appreciative that they sent it to us. Again, thank you to Home Run PR and Nacon and all
Ray,
them.
You're giving them valuable intel back, in my opinion, and I hope they take that and run with it.
Yeah, I hope so too. Because again, there was some good ideas here.
Right.
But just a complete lack of polish, a complete lack of fleshing it out, and I don't know if it's because the source material isn't there, or I don't know. Yeah. And I did hear from some folks who are very familiar with the White Wolf art tabletop game that they enjoyed this a bit more. It's not like enough to make it like a 7 or 8, but like maybe like a 6. But like, as somebody who's coming completely fresh into this and who is not very familiar with that lore, but just like the idea of possibly playing as a werewolf and tearing people limb from limb. Super disappointed. It's about a 10-hour experience, I would say, folks, the campaign, and it really was not worth it. So 4.5 out of 10. That's a red mark on the Metacritic for those of you out there. Not good.
You know what they say, Ray? The road to Castlevania is paved in blood.
Yeah, well, if Konami could get their heads out of their butts, maybe one day we'll get another Castlevania, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Yeah, so that's our an exclusive Geeks Who Like Sports review here. Werewolf, the Apocalypse-Earthblood. Also, the title's too long.
The second subtitle.
Come on.
The second subtitle.
I'm not knocking you points for that, but like, yeah, like you're not losing points for that, but like, come on.
Geeks Who Like Sports. And eat chips.
And drink water.
Oh, boy. All right. Werewolf, the Apocalypse, Earthblood.
Yes. So speaking of, well, now we move on.
Speaking of the Apocalypse.
I was going to say, moving from a sad game to some sad stories.
That's fair.
We had a couple of passings this week, a couple of legends in their respective fields. First off, actor Christopher Plummer, at the age of 91, lived an amazing life, known for so many films, so much animation. He did a lot of voiceover from like Up and An American Tail. He was also, of course, Sound of Music, probably his first biggest role. Still iconic, him tearing up that Nazi flag, which again still stays true to this today. Anybody who has a Nazi flag should rip that up. And then. Yeah, obviously, Knives Out probably more recently. He's his career, folks. I could be here all day listing his movies and his accomplishments.
Great life, 91 years too.
An amazing,
nothing to scoff at. Nothing to scoff at 91 years.
That's amazing. An amazing actor for sure. And then also, yes, on Super Bowl Sunday, or actually just after Super Bowl Sunday, the early hours of Monday the 8th, Marty Schottenheimer. For those of you who don't know, one of only 8 coaches in NFL history to have 200 regular season wins. Of course, a lot of folks always ragged on him because he never won the big one, never got further than the AFC Championship game. But one of the best regular season coaches of all time, really one of the best coaches of all time. And he passed away from Alzheimer's at the age of 77. Of course, his family coaching tree is his son's coach in the NFL, Brian Schottenheimer. And it just... yeah, it's very sad. Again, somebody who me and Lee watched a lot growing up, marching around the sidelines, especially for the Kansas City Chiefs. But yeah, so it's a sad thing. I know a lot of folks still rag on him for not being able to win the big one, but one of the greatest NFL coaches, period. Honestly, It's sad that he's gone.
Easily.
Yeah. So that does it for the geek section, and now moving into sports section. Obviously, a good transition. Not a good transition, but a transition. Speaking of football, before we get to the Super Bowl, really quick, some of the big NFL awards. Aaron Rodgers wins his 3rd MVP. Got 44 of the 50 first place votes. Tom Flores, finally, we talked about this a few weeks ago on the show. I don't know if Coors Light had anything to do with it, but they did their whole Tom Flores should be in the Hall of Fame campaign. Well, finally, Tom Flores, the first Latin American Super Bowl champion, won a Super Bowl as a coach, an assistant coach, and a player. Was the first guy to do that. Only one other person has done it since then, which of course was Mike Ditka. He is going to go into the Hall of Fame this year, this class, alongside a couple of guys who are not surprised. Charles Woodson, one of the greatest guys in the secondary ever. Megatron for the Detroit Lions. Another guy very similar to Barry Sanders, who retired early because he got sick of losing in Detroit, but still put up amazing numbers. And, of course, Peyton Manning amongst this year's Hall of Fame class. No surprise that Peyton is going in this year. Peyton going into the Hall of Fame. Tom Brady still winning Super Bowls. Speaking of that, that brings us into our Super Bowl segment. Of course, a few other awards. We're not gonna go over all.
Real quick, Ray. One thing I want to tell our audience is if you get a chance to watch how they tell the football players they're going in the Hall of Fame, I think the NFL actually does this better than anyone. Most of the leagues, it's just a phone call. The NFL has a way of kind of punking the players. For example, Peyton Manning, they had him filming a promo for one of his shows. And suddenly all of his old coaches show up on the field. There was a video. And then there's this great speech that's given every single time about thank you for what you've done for the game.
The Hall of Fame.
Right. Thank you for what you're doing for the game. Thank you all you're going to do it for. They really make it special, and they can get even the toughest athlete crying at those things.
John Lynch started to cry. John Lynch also.
He was balling.
Safety.
Peyton Manning put on sunglasses for some reason out of nowhere. So if you get a chance just to go look up any of the Hall of Fame induction announcements. They're fun to watch. I just wanted to put that out there.
Well, and that's the thing is that unlike baseball, where when the vote's going to be announced, it. So if you're on the bubble, you're kind of like they show it all the time. They showed it with Griffey, right? Kind of waiting by the phone, almost like draft day in football, right? Where you're kind of waiting. You might get that call at some point. With the NFL, they keep that super secret until they announce it, and then the head of the football Hall of Fame.
Canton knows what they're doing. And again, at least with how they do this, I'm glad they're taking a step forward, obviously, with Flores getting in. But the NFL, I think, does this better than anyone else, in my opinion, with the MLB now being the worst. And then hockey and basketball somewhere in the middle.
So again, a lot of Alan Faneca, also longtime guard for the Steelers, and also played a couple years for the Jets. Not a successful one with the Steelers. He got in as well. So a lot of great guys got in. Be sure to check that out. Justin Herbert also won Offensive Rookie of the Year. No surprise there. For the Chargers, absolutely dominated. So a lot of great things. The awards for the NFL, always really good. But again, speaking of awards, the most important award is the Lombardi Trophy.
It is.
And I'm not gonna lie, folks, this was a terrible football game. This
for one team.
Well, I mean, I think this honestly, seriously though, in general, this is probably you haven't seen a team as unprepared as the Chiefs, probably since the Super Bowl 48 Broncos against the Seahawks. Where they lost by 35. It's you don't see a lot of blowouts anymore in the Super Bowl, but this was even though 31-9 doesn't seem like that big a deal. No, it was a lot bigger than even that score made it look like.
You all saw the game, or if you didn't, you're not going to. So here's the deal. In my opinion, again, I don't want to do a recap of the game. This is what I saw from my coaching player mind, is that on the side of the Chiefs, I will say first and foremost, Patrick Mahomes did everything possible to win.
With a busted foot, by the way.
Yeah, he played a Super Bowl caliber game. His team did not. We'll talk about how many times the guy has to throw the ball in how many different contorted positions to hit a guy in the helmet, and somehow they couldn't catch the ball. That's number one. But I don't want to take anything away from Patrick Mahomes. I thought he had a great game. The Chiefs had to deal with massive distractions in the week leading up to the Super Bowl. Which I can tell you right now as a coach that the types of distractions that they had to deal with, which Ray will go into in a minute, will cost you a Super Bowl. All right? It is so important that in the weeks leading up to a game like this, it's Super Bowl, Stanley Cup, anything, you are able to focus completely on what you're trying to do. We shared an article last week about Tom Brady telling one of his players not to cry after the NFC Championship game. I got a little flack back for that. Like, wow, he should be able to cry. No, I'm sorry. Here's what I was saying. We're not talking about general daily life, okay? This is Super Bowl. Not to mention Tom Brady is someone who knows how to win the Super Bowl. The NFC Championship game is not the goal. And I do not believe you should be celebrating that, okay? You can celebrate it after you win the Super Bowl. It takes a certain mentality to win. And and again, if you don't agree with me, Ray will back me up on this. I know what that mentality is. I teach that mentality. I have won several times at high levels. You must have supreme focus, attitude, and execution. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this is why I said, from a football perspective, played one of the best executed football games I've ever seen a team play. Mm-hmm. Not only did they do it well, but they played some of the most basic brand of football I've ever seen. Short, stupid, simple plays.
Yeah.
You set up, you do the run to set up the pass, you do the pass to set up the run. 10-yard pass, 10-yard run, 10-yard pass. Just jam it down the throat. As Vince Lombardi said, hard-nosed football all the way into the end zone. Not to mention you have the greatest quarterback of all time playing at the top of his game. It was a brilliant coaching plan by the Bucs, completely caught KC off guard. They were not expecting the Buccaneers to play that simple.
And they did not adjust.
And they destroyed them. They did not adjust, right, Ray. And I've talked about this with so many Super Bowl coaches. This is how Atlanta lost to the Pats. You must be able to adjust on the fly no matter what your game plan is, especially when they're playing simple football like that. Now, again, not in the locker rooms. I don't know what they thought was going to go on. But I've got to say, Tampa Bay put on a great Super Bowl championship performance.
Yes.
KC did not show up for multiple reasons. Again, we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But I really want to congratulate Tom Brady on 7 Super Bowls and that team for doing what nobody thought they could possibly do. Nobody picked them to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
We will talk about Tom Brady in a moment. I want to have a discussion about him. But Ray, why don't we talk about a little bit what happened with KC? Because it's tragic.
Yes.
It's tragic, but it's, it's the Reed family has so many troubles.
There's a lot to go on to break down here. But first, I also want to say, congratulations to a lot of the Bucs. This is kind of a team of rejects and troublemakers. Who and Tom Brady had his best game of the playoffs in the biggest moment. Gronk had his best game of the year in the biggest moment.
Years.
This is coming out of retirement.
Right.
But Antonio Brown, who literally froze his feet off not to play for the Raiders, and Ndamukong Suh, who was probably for a long time remembered as the guy who stomped on the quarterback.
Didn't step on one quarterback this game.
Yes.
I don't think he could catch Mahomes.
Jason Pierre-Paul, former New York Giant, who blew off half his hand in a fireworks accident. Like, really not the best or brightest here in Tampa Bay.
And a 43-year-old quarterback.
Yeah. But also, I also want to say Leonard Fournette, who was on the scrap pile at the beginning of the year. The Jaguars cut him after running him into the ground. Him I'm actually happy for. Because he had a resurgence here this year in Tampa, and he showed that he still had some in the gas, some gas in the tank. Also, by the way, LaShawn McCoy now has won back-to-back Super Bowl championships for the Chiefs and for the Bucs. Even though he rode the bench both Super Bowls, the entire game, he did dress, so he will get his second ring with them, which I think is a funny story. But
Shady McCoy.
Yeah, but so it was an interesting game, and again, and for everybody who, again, Mahomes, like Lee said, with turf toe, he's having actually surgery tomorrow after recording this. A busted foot, ran for almost 500 yards because he was running for his life, and I get it. The Chiefs had some injuries in the offensive line, but I have never seen an offensive line play that badly, even with your backups before. And Mahomes did literally everything he could. His receivers dropped passes. His punter choked and shanked 3 punts. You had your defense. I will say this: there were some really ticky-tack calls, especially in the first half with the referees.
Sure, that's not why they lost.
But that is those 3 penalties are not the reason why the Chiefs lost this game. And again, also, by the way, after you saw Tampa Bay throw a Hail Mary at the end of the Green Bay game, and you don't defend the exact same thing against Tampa Bay at the end of the first half. Right. That's on your defensive coordinator, which unfortunately is Steve Spagnuolo, who's near and dear to my heart as a Giants fan. But you guys, the Chiefs were not ready, and now the reason why the Chiefs might not have been ready. 2 big reasons. First off, they decided to all get a haircut earlier in the week with a barber who found out that he had COVID the same day. Fortunately, nobody seemed to contract it, but I'm not going to lie, probably for a couple of days there, they were all very worried as they were going through the testing.
It's a distraction.
Yes.
It's a major distraction.
And then the night before, I think they were all heading down to the Super Bowl. I think it was Thursday or Friday night. This was super tragic. But again, like Lee said, what the heck is wrong with the Reed family? That's a whole different can of worms. But Britt Reed, who is also the linebackers coach for the Chiefs, an assistant head coach, obviously, to his dad, decided that it would be smart to crack a few open and drive home drunk, get into a terrible car accident. The 2 kids right now, as we speak, February 9th, are still in critical condition, a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. Absolutely a terrible, terrible car wreck. So that's why he wasn't at the Super Bowl. And actually, I think he's right now obviously out of jail on bail, but he's going to probably have charges pressed against him for this. Not just the DUI, but especially if those kids, God forbid,
it could be manslaughter.
Yeah, exactly. So, good job, Kansas City, you bunch of jackasses.
Well, here's the deal: is that Andy Reid is a great football coach. He's a Hall of Fame coach, but we've talked about this, Ray, on the show before in other aspects. You gotta wonder if his coaching career, if he's been a good father or not. And I'm not here to judge Andy Reid as a father, but Andy Reid has lost a son to suicide. Yeah. His other son may have committed manslaughter here. I've said this before. I don't coach right now because I don't think I could be a great coach and a great father at the same time. And I chose my kids, and I don't regret that one bit. Okay. So I'm also not Andy Reid, all right? But his kids were having problems in Philadelphia, massive problems. They were teenagers when he was here. They had massive drugs and substance problems. I don't want to see any of this. I don't want to see anything of this, but it's tragic, like you said. And look, those are 2 massive distractions leading up to the Super Bowl. And I can tell you right now that from a team standpoint, somebody, in my opinion, screwed up and was not keeping these guys accountable for the biggest game of the year. Maybe it's because they won last year. They feel invincible. Yeah. But I would say that those 2 things played heavily into the Chiefs' loss. They were not prepared to win.
And not focused. And they looked at
They're not focused. And there's no way you can be focused.
And
it shows you how one person or 2 people can ruin it for everybody. And I'm telling you from experience. You might be able to say it doesn't matter. There's a small thing. If it detracts in any way, all right, you need maximum focus to win. Maximum. Tom Brady emanates maximum focus at all times. That is why I said what he said to his player at the NFC Championship game was the exact right message. We have not won yet. Mm-hmm. Focus. He's right. Yeah. I'm telling you that he's right. You do not celebrate an accomplishment until later on. Okay? Keeping in mind, too, in my opinion, Ray, the NFC Championship game is not the accomplishment. Yeah. The Super Bowl is. Okay? Yeah. So I do want to spin to Brady real quick, but I didn't know if you had another thought on that.
Yeah, no, I mean it's the truth. And again, I also want to just say that it did look like that the Chiefs almost overlooked the Bucs in some way, in a lot of ways.
Easily.
Like, and I get it. They beat him earlier in the year in the regular season. They everybody picked the Chiefs, us included. Obviously, I went.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, and I do want to defend this a tiny, tiny bit. Like, again, whenever you make predictions, you could be wrong. But I think we said it's them unless some things happen that we don't expect, and some things happen that we didn't expect. Yeah. And looking back on it now, of course we should have picked Brady. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's like, that's part of what makes Brady Brady, though. But again, not prepared, distracted, a team that, they're going to have to learn from this. And again, Patrick Mahomes played great. I don't know how many times a guy can throw the ball at your helmet and you miss. They just weren't there. They weren't ready for this game.
Too many drops. I mean, and then still at the end of the day, a lot of those guys got their numbers. They got their stats, but they never found the end zone. They were held to 3 field goals, which also,
The better team won. The better team won on the day.
Yes.
That's what I'll say.
Yeah, exactly. The Chiefs did not come to play, and it was evident from probably, I would say, the second quarter on. Like, the Chiefs got off to a good start, but that's about it.
Yeah, I could say the penalties might have slowed them down a little bit, but like I said, that's the game, guys. That's the game. You got to be able to deal with adversity. One thing I'll tell you, too, is, it's kind of switching to the Brady talk, is that, they were taunting Brady or Brady was taunting them. I don't care. Don't piss off Tom Brady. It's not a good tactic. You're going to lose. Yeah. I do want to talk about Brady as the 7-time Super Bowl champion. Interesting stats now. Brady alone has more Super Bowls than any other team in the league with 7. His stats, one of the stats I was telling Ray that I love is that if you break his career up from 2001 to 2010 and then 2011 to 2021, he has 2 Hall of Fame careers. Thanks for talking over me, which I do to you all the time, so I deserve that. No, I do that to you all the time. That's totally fair. He's had 2 Hall of Fame careers. All right, here's the deal. This is my thoughts on Brady. I've heard a lot of different views on him. Number one, as a football player, and we talked about this a little bit with baseball last week. As a football player, he is the greatest of all time. He is. There's no denying it. All right, we did have some talk and chatter on the page about, well, you can't really pick one, and like, There are multiple goats technically if you want to do it by era and by things, but this is a Wayne Gretzky level player now. Okay, the difference between a Michael Jordan, LeBron James is there's lots of players that have done things that are close to each other where you can debate it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. In basketball, dynasties are extremely common.
Right.
Because of lack of parity. The league has had that problem since its inception.
Right. The thing about Wayne Gretzky, and this is why hockey never gets enough credit, but Wayne Gretzky is so far ahead of everyone else. Yeah. He is the greatest of all time. Doesn't matter when or what, he's the greatest of all time. Brady's reaching that now. 7 Super Bowls. He's coming back. He's 43. He's going to play again. He has every record you can think of. All right, he's in that. So I'm going to make this plea to everybody once again, and then we'll have a quick discussion. It is time to start enjoying watching him play. He is not going to be around for much longer. Now, I know people don't like Tom Brady. This dude's a winner. I don't care what anyone says. He's a winner, and he knows how to win. And if you don't like some of his tactics, I mean, this is going to sound really harsh, but maybe, how often do you win? All right. Now, with that said, there is some trade-off here. Okay. Like if that's not the way you want to act, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But his job's to win, and he does his job really, really well. I remember after the Super Bowl, one of the players was, tweeting or doing the Instagram in the locker room, and Tom Brady's just getting dressed like nothing happened. He's done this before, and the player really respected him. He's like, this guy's a legend. He's done this so many times, he doesn't even care. Yeah. You know what I mean? And he obviously he cares, but right. Then there's the off the field stuff that people think he's a jerk. And I got to be honest with you. Look, Tom Brady beat my team in a Super Bowl. I've lived through the entire Tom Brady era almost as an adult. Yep. Some of the hate the guy gets, I don't really get. Some of it I get in terms of, wow, he's really being harsh. I look at a guy like, this is what it takes to be him. And I'm sure he lives a very lonely life, to be fair. Yeah. All right. But man loves his family. He's a great family man. Right, loves his kids. It's completely apparent. Mm-hmm. I'm sure people rag him every single day that he's Tom Brady. Tom Brady. Guy's not afraid to make fun of himself in commercials. But outside of that, he's a pretty private guy.
I will say this: the commercial with him and Gronk with the T-Mobile commercial was very funny about why
I'm not soft. Back. Okay, I'm not soft.
Yeah, that was very, very funny. There were some decent commercials. Bud Light, I think, won the day again.
Easily. There's the thing. I think that Tom Brady's done a lot of great commercials throughout the year. And that thing he did for College Humor where he's like, hey, that guy from Boston, you with your Boston accent again. And I can't. He's like, I'm from California. Yeah. He's like, I
went to school at Michigan.
That was a great video too. But and he's been in movies. He was in Ted. He was in lots of things.
He knows he can make fun. He can have fun too.
I think that 95% of the Tom Brady hatred just comes because he wins and we love to see people fall and he refuses to fall. Okay. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you this, as a coach and an athlete, I have respect for almost everything I see this guy do. If anyone can give me a legitimate thing, proven thing that this guy's done that has really been that devastating outside beating your team and Deflategate, which I don't think he did.
Yeah. I still don't think he had a lot of say in that.
Then give it to me. But no one's produced an argument for me of why I should hate this guy. Outside of the obvious just animosity of him winning all the time, which is not a legit thing to me. I kind of respect it now.
I just need to say he never beat my team in the Super Bowl.
He never beat my team in the 2010s. So, no, I'm serious though. Like this is one of those things. You see, I'm gonna get a little angry here if I'm not careful. You've been given greatness to watch. Greatness. In all aspects. He's not a dick off the field. To his family, to his fans, to his businesses. You've been given an example of greatness athletically. Okay? I'm not trying to say this guy's a god. Mm-hmm. All right? He is on the football field. And we try and crush it. And I've just never understood that approach. When I see greatness on that level, I go, what is he doing? I want to know what he's doing. Yeah, but that's win.
The culture, though, Lee. People want the comeback story. They don't want
part of that culture.
I understand, but
I kind of reject that culture in the sense of that.
You're the exception.
That's fine. I'll be the exception because I don't agree with it. All right, I don't see any value in that side of the culture. And if anybody can produce some value for me, I'll be happy to listen to it. Okay. You can learn from someone that's doing this. And it's that culture, Ray, that you're talking about that's causing so many problems. I am not trying to sound holier than thou. You said I'm the exception, not me. I'm trying to inspire people. All right? When you see greatness on that level, learn from it. Don't shun it. Typically, when people shun that, it's voices in their head that are saying, you'll never be that great. Okay? And here's the thing.
And none of us will.
I will never be that great. Okay? I will never be Tom Brady. I will never be any professional athlete. It doesn't mean I don't want to look at them and be inspired to do better. That's the big problem that I have with that other side of the culture, is just we shun greatness, and we look at it with the wrong mindset. And it's jealousy, and it's insecurity, and I understand both of those feelings. I do. I felt them many times in my life, and I just shifted. They're a waste of time, right? And they're saboteurs in your head, and they don't help you get ahead. No matter who you are, where you are in life, Tom Brady's not great because he makes millions of dollars. He came from nothing. He was the last player drafted. He went to a college that's not known for the football team. He wasn't the last player drafted. He was drafted very late.
Sixth
round.
He
went to a college. It's not my point. You're right. He wasn't the Mr. Relevant. Okay, yeah. He was drafted very, very late.
Yes.
Nobody expected much from him, is my point.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, he didn't, he was drafted very late. He went to a school. He was voted captain at his school, a team that's not known for their football team most of the time, right? Goes to the Patriots, wins 6 Super Bowls, and just won another Super Bowl.
Michigan's known for its football.
I'm saying they're not known for being a NCAA championship team.
Yeah, okay? They are. Michigan, back in the 90s, they were.
You are totally straying away from my point.
I'm just saying. Well, okay? You have to be factually correct if you're going to make these arguments.
Michigan's not known for winning the national championship game in recent years, is what I'm trying to say.
Recent years.
Okay? All right, the Wolverines haven't
been
a
powerhouse. When he was quarterback there, they were.
Thank you for proving my point. So there you go. When he was quarterback there, they turned into a national championship team.
No, actually, they fell apart when he took over at quarterback.
Let me finish my point. Then he went into the Pats organization, says, I'm going to win you guys Super Bowls. He did, right? And he goes to another team in another conference and wins games. We especially with guys like him, LeBron, another guy who's a great family man, builds schools in his off seasons. Stop shunning these people. It doesn't do you any favors, right? I'm not saying you should aspire to be them. I'm saying when you're given an example of greatness, ask yourself, what are they doing differently? How can I apply this to my life and maybe do something differently, right? I don't understand why we shun that more often than not. And I do understand the storylines and people like seeing fall, but I hope people are thinking about this a little bit. Maybe ask yourself, why am I doing that to myself? Why do I shun greatness? And I understand the insecurities of it. I really do understand the psychology behind it. But, it just takes a shift in focus to maybe just think about it a little differently. And again, I'm not going to look at Tom Brady in a negative light anymore, unless he does something obviously wrong, right? But nobody can prove anything that he's done wrong. Prove it, right? And if his response is incredible. He was texting every player. This is one thing I love about him. Think about him versus Kansas City. He texted every player on his team every night leading up to the Super Bowl, we will win. Every player on the team, we will win. That's a leader. And then on the championship podium, he says to all of them, I think we knew we were going to win. That's the difference that happened in the Super Bowl. He's great. He's greatness personified in football. I'm not saying there are not other great people in society that we should be heralding that we don't. Like if someone was to make a vaccine for a very deadly virus and then we don't even know the name of anyone involved in that, that's a shame too. But Tom Brady, in terms of football and sports and the athletic achievement world, is someone I think we could all look to and aspire to in terms of learning about greatness.
Just also want to correct myself. Tom Brady was a freshman when Michigan won their last football championship. He was not the starter. Brian Griese was the starter. So, yes, Michigan did not win anything when Brady was the starter.
Thank you for missing my point. But, yes, he was there, and he was a leader on that team.
I know. No, he was. At that point, he wasn't, but he was a freshman.
He was his senior. I'm talking about his junior and senior year. He was voted captain by his team. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right, and the team
looked at him
as
a leader then.
Right.
Oh, yeah. All right. Thank you, Ray.
I'm just saying, Lee, no offense, you're kind of getting on a bit of a soapbox here, so let's get back to the show.
Well, I'll let the audience decide. I think that's very rude. I think I'm making a point about someone who's came from nothing. Like you said, he didn't win in college, and he was able to continually get better and better and better. All right? And I think that's an incredible story that we should be focused on.
He got better, then he got worse. He kind of had a comeback story because he didn't win anything in the middle of his career. But,
Sure.
Anyway,
that's a good point. Make a point against what I just said.
No, I honestly, no offense, Lee. I kind of started to tune you out there because I've heard this all before, and it's just kind of like, okay, dude, like, Whatever.
Make a point. Don't just tell me you tuned it out. Make a point of why I'm wrong or move on.
Like, I didn't say you were wrong, but I'm also saying you're getting a little long-winded there, old man. Like, come on. Like,
sure. Well, I'll let the audience listen to that. You can tell me what you think.
Fine. Yeah, I hope they comment. But, like, yeah, it's okay. I get it. I listen, folks. Me and Lee talk all the time. Trust me, I've heard this all before.
Doesn't mean they have.
Oh, goodness. Again, hey, whatever. Tom Brady, he won again. Whoop-de-doo. You know, I want to talk about something fun. Supposedly, I don't know if this was true, but supposedly he was thanking his dad on Twitter. I don't know if this was a meme or somebody made this up, but Eli Manning then replied like, "Oh, you're welcome, son." Nick Foles also replied saying like, "Does it get awkward when you have to tell the kids at school that you have two dads?" So I don't know if that was real. But I saw that online. And
I doubt it. I doubt Eli Manning would do that. But that's
Eli,
fun.
I would believe. Foles, I'm less likely that he would jump on, which is why I think that I think that Foles. That's why I think it's fake, because I don't think Foles would. Eli is very active on Twitter, so that I would believe actually. But anyway, so we were talking about. Oh man, we were talking about a lot there. One of the things that, as I try to figure out a transition to our next sport, we were speaking of guys who are, well, might not be a winner or maybe detrimental to their team. Patrick Laine, I can still never say his name. Laine.
Patrick Laine.
Laine,
yes,
whatever. He rode the pine last night in the third period as the Blue Jackets beat the Canes, and people are now starting to wonder. By the way, the other guy who came over in that trade with Winnipeg, Roslovic, got the game-winning goal, which is important. But people are starting to wonder now if it might just be him, if he's also going to rub Torts the wrong way. He only played for 11 and a half minutes, 7 minutes in the first period, 4 in the second. Lee, what's going on in Columbus?
I think it's hilarious that the Pierre-Luc Dubois, who he traded after benching him, and the player they got in Patrick Laine was then benched. This is what's going on. It's real simple. John Tortorella knows how to win. He's won a Stanley Cup. He's won a silver medal. Dude knows how to win. If you're not going to play at the level that he knows it's going to take to win the Stanley Cup, you're not going to play. And that's painfully apparent. I don't think they're going to trade Patrick Laine. I think a conversation does need to take place between him and the coach. The team did win the game. All right, John Tortorella is an abrasive coach, but he will demand what it takes to win because he knows what it takes to win. If players aren't going to do that, then they're going to sit. Columbus has no Stanley Cup championships. They've never even been to a Stanley Cup. And if they want to get there, they'd be wise to listen to this guy. Now, with that said, coaches like John Tortorella typically don't last on a team like this too long because they are too abrasive. The Rangers were completely traumatized after he left the Rangers to go to Vancouver. It took them a good couple seasons to really break out of that. Right. Being traumatized. That's why most of those players aren't on the team anymore.
Yeah, they were trade bait.
All right. Yeah. So this is a guy who knows how to win. He's very Mike Keenan-esque. Yeah. Another Rangers coach, right?
Yes. Another Stanley Cup winning coach.
Yeah, like this is his method to winning. I don't personally coach that way or enjoy coaching that way, but you can't deny the guy gets results. And at this level, if you don't play at what it takes to win, you're not going to play. And Patrick Laine is not known for that, playing to that level. He has not been great since his rookie and sophomore year, and it's time for him to wake up to that as well. Not saying he's not a great player, not saying that he doesn't deserve his ice time, but this is probably a step in the right direction. By the way, Flyers did this too. They benched one of their best players, their leading goal scorer for a game, because he wasn't playing hard enough. It's a coach's tactic, and it makes sense. Yeah. If you know what it takes to win, you're going to demand it from your players, or you won't win. It's that simple.
No, it's a very good point. And speaking of the Flyers, they're playing very well. Last I checked, they're top of the division. James
sounds like I'll help you transition here, Ray, because it sounds like as we're recording the show, they're about to go down on a COVID protocol.
Wow. Okay. So never mind, because we were. Well, yeah. There was. We were. I was going to say that for the end of the hockey topic, but
well, it's happening now. So
well, there you go.
If you want to come back to it, we can. But it sounds like the Flyers are about to be set.
Yeah. It sounds like actually a lot of the league is being affected by this. Obviously, the Devils. A lot of Devils have been expended. The Wild, the Sabres, who of course the Devils had the beginning of an outbreak, and then decided to play the Sabres anyway. And of course it spread because that's what COVID does, especially now with the mutations. But so hockey is in a lot of trouble. Now we're about a quarter of the way, or almost a quarter of the way through the season, the truncated 50-60.
About 20%.
20%, yeah. So my Rangers got shut out last night by the Islanders because that's a team they're still trying to figure things out. And I think if the season gets finished, I think Quinn is going to be fired if the Rangers don't make the playoffs.
Probably.
Because a lot of guys just aren't clicking right now, and they're not playing. Speaking of not playing to their full potential, Zibanejad. But anyway, COVID protocol. Lee, what's happening with hockey? How do they get back on track? Can they get back on track, or is the season in jeopardy?
No, I don't think the season's in jeopardy yet. This is what I'll say. I said this during baseball season. I was obviously critical of MLB and their handling of it, and I said I would be of the NHL too. But the NHL is starting to approach a point of concern with the amount of COVID outbreaks. Now, I think they're being overly cautious, to be fair, in terms of how they're benching teams right now. But excuse me, they're on the threshold in my mind of this becoming a real problem. And what's happening is they're shutting teams down so the whole team doesn't get it. And it is becoming a problem now. So I don't know what these players are doing between games, that they're somehow contracting the virus. But if I'm the NHL right now, if I'm Gary Bettman, I'm having an owners meeting and saying, you better tell your teams to start quarantining after every game, or we're not going to end the season. It's going to be a massive blemish after the way we did the bubble last year and how well we've been doing. But I said it is becoming a concern. It is a problem. The NHL needs to lock it down now and figure out what is going on. What are these guys doing, Ray, between games? Are they going out? Are they partying? Stop it. Take your few $1 million contract and just sit and be with your family and then go play hockey. That's it. Like everybody else. It's upsetting. So again, with the Flyers, I just know there's a press conference coming today from a medical situation on the team, which I assume is going to mean we're going to be either sitting down or we're watching something. We're supposed to be playing the Capitals tonight. Yeah. All right. And then we were supposed to play the Devils, which is not going to happen.
Right.
So the NHL better figure this out, because, you start missing too many games. Yeah. It's going to be a major problem.
31 games have already been postponed.
It's a problem.
And again, we're only 20% of the way through the season. And a lot of teams are going to have to make it up. Also, the beginning of the season, that's not even counting the Dallas Stars having their first 2 games or somewhat postponed. So, I mean, this is a legit
problem. It's a threshold problem now. If this goes much further, then it becomes a discussion of what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Right? I don't think we're there yet. I think that they've, again, been very proactive about it, but it's approaching it, and I'm concerned as a hockey fan.
No, and you should be, for sure, because it also seems, at least from the outside, and I don't pay attention to it as much as, for basketball, I really just pay attention to the Knicks, as much as it pains me a lot of times, because it doesn't look like I'm hearing nearly as many outbreaks in basketball. So if basketball, again, similar situations here where you're having a lot of home and homes, limited travel, and that's what hockey did too, to make sure that, and hockey even cracked it down more to have where basketball, you're still having your full travel. Like the Knicks got a West Coast trip and everything seems to be fine. With hockey, you're just limiting it to your regions.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know what these guys are doing, but it better stop. Yeah. Or they're going to lose their season.
No, for sure, and I think that's the big concern right now. Like I said, 31 games have been postponed as of right now, and the outbreaks, they're not just outbreaks, they're massive outbreaks. Like the Devils, the Sabres, the Wild, it's like almost their whole roster, and their training staffs. I looked at the list today. I think it's like 10 players on each team. That's half the team has COVID.
I'm actually a little surprised that there wasn't more proactive to get the vaccine to the league. All the leagues, actually. And now don't get me wrong, the vaccines need to go to elderly and they need to go to the people who really need it. But I'm actually surprised they didn't try and buy their way in. Right. Which it doesn't sound like
we've heard a lot of actually happening, especially out here in LA. A lot of people with enough money are cutting the line. And that is another that's a whole different problem for a whole different discussion.
Totally. There is that. But like I said, they got everyone's just got to hold it together. This is what I've been saying. Look, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Now's not the time to be stupid. Mm-hmm. All right. I think a lot of people are going, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Vaccines coming. Let's go out. No, don't go anywhere. Now's the time to be cautious, people. What are you doing? Now more than ever, but it's always hardest at the end. It is always hardest when you can see that light. You want to run outside, and it's just the same thing with the league here. We got 6 months and we're out of this. Come on. We can do this. We can do this.
Can we?
No. Clearly not.
No, exactly, especially in this country. Speaking, we mentioned the Knicks before. The Knicks, they made a trade. Why? I have no idea. They traded, I want to make sure they get this right, a second-round pick. Oh, I just had it on my phone. Because, again, it wasn't the player they got rid of wasn't that big of a deal. But why they got Derrick Rose back is beyond me. Especially when you're trying to develop your young point guard specifically quickly. You have why are you making trades for older players when you're obviously in the middle of a youth movement. You're obviously rebuilding. And I also get that the head coach, Tom Thibodeau, absolutely loves Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose hasn't been a difference maker since 2011. He just hasn't. He's constantly hurt. He
doesn't make sense, this trade.
I mean, I guess maybe you can use him as in a mentorship role, but they traded Dennis Smith Jr. That's who it was, the most generic name ever, and a second-round pick to Detroit. But Smith Jr. also another young player who's trying to find his game. Who knows? Maybe he finds it in Detroit. And a second-round pick typically isn't a big deal in the NBA, but. You bring on Derrick Rose, he's going to get at least 20 minutes a night, probably closer to 25. And it's taking time away from guys who probably need more to develop. And that's really should be the Knicks' focus this year. Look, the Knicks are a bubble team. Right now, if the season ended, they're the 7th seed in the East, which isn't saying much because, let's be honest, we talked about this earlier in the show. If you're not a top 3 team in basketball in the conferences, you're probably not doing anything because there's no parity in basketball. But if you're looking to end your playoff streak, why mess with what you're doing? Continue to develop these young guys. Give them the minutes they need so that maybe in 2 or 3 years and a couple more good drafts, maybe you could be a contender again. Goodness, it would be nice if the Knicks were a contender again. But yeah, I mean, look, Derrick Rose is when he was in his prime was a good player. He again gets along with Tom Thibodeau, the coach, but this is a head scratcher to me.
The Knicks need a whole reculture assessment. The problem with the Knicks is everybody looks at them to be the Knicks, right? You know what I mean by
James
that?
Dolan is the problem.
Well, he's a big problem too, and that's part of the culture. The problem with the Knicks is they're always expected to be the Knicks, and everybody talks about the great Knicks of the past. They need a culture shift. I'll give you a great example in hockey. The Flyers were the Broad Street Bullies. We're the Broad Street Bullies all the way through the 90s and the 2000s, the Broad Street Bullies. And Ed Snyder dies, and we're still the Broad Street Bullies. Guess what? We're not. Yeah. We're not the Broad Street Bullies. That was 1970s into the 80s. Yep. We haven't been the bullies in a long time. And guess what? The bullies mentality, which I loved growing up, no longer doesn't work in today's NHL. So they had to do a massive culture shift. They got Alain Vigneault, who did that. Now we're a hardworking, fast team. We look nothing like a team of bullies. Yeah. All right. And guess what? They're winning. Right? So that's what I'm talking about. The Knicks have to change the culture of what they were to what they're going to be and stop holding on to what they were. You're never going to be that team again. It's time to rethink how Knicks basketball is played. Yeah. Right? I'll give you another example. The 76ers, right? First place in the East. They got a great coach in Doc Rivers. Yep. This all started with the trust the process kind of culture shift there. They hit a snag the last few years, but now they're moving forward from it. Culture change. Yeah. I don't compare today's Sixers with Allen Iverson's Sixers or the great Sixers teams of the early 80s and late 70s. They're different teams, different organizations. Yeah.
Although funny, I will say it is funny. Thibodeau is changing the culture, but it does seem to be going back more to the Jeff Van Gundy Knicks because the Knicks, even though they're 500, the Knicks have the number 1 defense in the NBA. They're playing defense-first basketball, which typically hasn't worked in today's game.
Well, listen, you can always reference the past, and that's nothing wrong with that, especially if it worked. But my point is, in my opinion, when I look at the Knicks, it's always they're expected to be this great Knicks team. And it's like, that's not what they are anymore. They got to rethink how they're doing basketball in Manhattan. They got to rethink it. Look at Brooklyn. Look at Brooklyn, how quickly they were able to turn that around. And yes, I know they got a super team now, but look how quickly they were able to turn it around just by culture shifting it. Yeah. Right? Now, and this is always the problem with New York City. And not even just the city. It's the problem with New York in general is teams can fall into this trap of, hey, we're New York. And it's you can't always look at it like, yes, New York is expected to win. Absolutely. But you have to know when you have to shift the culture. You don't have to shift the winning aspect of it, but you got to know where you're at, right? You got to know where you're at. Right? This has always been the Mets problem. Right? Oh, we're the Mets. You haven't won crap in years. What are you doing? Like, we're the Mets, though.
1986 is a long time ago.
Like, what are we doing here, right? Like, we're the Mets. Like that's great. You're not the Yankees.
That's the same with the Knicks. The Knicks haven't won since 73.
Right.
73. Me and Lee weren't alive, folks.
The last Cowboys, too. The Cowboys, too, are another great example of this. You're not the Cowboys of the 90s. Yeah. You have to switch it up. A lot of this does come back to the owners.
Yes.
Right? But at the same time, Man, that's my problem with the Knicks, the Knickerbockers. You have to reinvent the Knicks.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened since Whoopi Goldberg was in that movie.
Eddie. Yeah.
Eddie.
Yeah.
Great movie, by the way.
Yeah. But no, well, I mean, I think that's why coming into this season, and I said it before, and I said it even before, I said the Knicks were going to be 10 games under 500 this year. And mind you, even if they're finishing 500, it's not great, but Thibodeau trying to change the culture. It feels like a youth movement. Again, defense first, which you don't see a lot nowadays in the NBA from a lot of teams. But typically teams without superstars, if you play defense first, that's a way to be competitive. And then you make this Derrick Rose move, and that's why it feels like the old Knicks. And it's like,
right,
folks, we haven't made the playoffs in 7 years.
Yeah,
that's which by the way, in a league where half the teams make the playoffs, that's too long.
Yeah, I will say this. I hope the trade works out for the Knicks, but
me too. Obviously,
it's
I hope I'm eating crow in 2 weeks. It's
an interesting move to say the least.
Yeah,
don't get COVID.
Yeah. Speaking of moves, Trevor Bauer, who was probably the big free agent pitcher in baseball, signs a record 3-year, $102 million deal with the Dodgers. He will be the highest paid player in baseball next year and the year after. It's a backloaded contract. He also has an opt-out clause after year 2. There was some controversy because I guess on his personal website, they had originally announced they were signing a 3-year, $93 million deal with the Mets, and Mets fans were like, "Oh my God!" And then Bauer, to he is known as a bit of a troll, did actually come out and apologize and say we had a couple of back end, and this happens a lot actually with people who preload their websites and all this other stuff. Somebody accidentally published that. They had 2 offers. They didn't know what they were going with yet until he was talking with his agent, making the final deal. And obviously then the Dodgers came up, were like, we'll give you an extra $10 million. We're gonna raise the contract. And then of course, who's not gonna take an extra $10 million? Plus, he's from Los Angeles, so he always was leaning towards coming. That's why people were talking about the Angels for a long time, about him coming back home. The Dodgers kind of came in as this late dark horse because once the Angels fell by the wayside, everybody was talking more about the Mets. Steve Cohen's been throwing around opening his wallet, has been throwing money around left and right all off season. There's no denying that. And I remind many Mets fans over and over again, you don't win a championship in January. Although on paper, you look very good. And honestly, if you had Bauer, I would give you probably the nod to win the East over the Braves or the Phillies. But you don't. Now the Dodgers, seeing what the Padres were doing with all their trades, obviously reloading, this is a big deal. And I think that and also, by the way, to Bauer's credit, he donated a lot of money to New York City charities to try and smooth things over with Mets fans. And all the Mets fans are like, "You never cared about us. You were never going to come here. Screw you and your charity money." And I don't know. The charities are probably really happy. But Mets fans, as typical, you're always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Typical East Coast fans that they're owed something.
Yes.
But, the Dodgers they win the World Series, suddenly they want to be the Yankees. We'll just buy another championship.
I mean, this is going to put the Dodgers way over the luxury tax.
Yeah, of course.
It's going to cost them a lot of money.
This is what baseball does, right? And this is what the Yankees have done so well for so much of their time, to be fair.
Yes.
But good for the Dodgers. Mets fans, relax.
Yeah.
It's not all about you.
Yes. Also, baseball announced they are deadening the ball this year after a record number of home runs in 2019.
Right. Of course they are. Idiots.
Yes.
Because nobody wants to see the big ball. Nobody wants to see the home runs.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's
the thing. Deaden the ball.
And now it makes me feel even more that the steroid, a lot of those guys knew about what was going on with the steroids, but B, that probably a lot of the guys from the steroid era should probably just be let, not when the deserving ones, the Bonds, the Clemens, obviously they should probably be let into the hall at this point, because look, you can't write the history of that era without those guys, as dark as the era might be. But the fact that now baseball's being like, yeah, we mess with the ball every couple of years, and now we're going to deaden it this year because too many home runs all of a sudden, cheapening the stats from the 70s.
But baseball's manipulating their game to the point. Like they're just trying to go backwards. That's what they're doing. And don't get me wrong, I understand the beauty of fielding.
Yes.
All right, and positional play and all that stuff. But what the hell are you doing? You're manipulating your game to go back in time.
Yeah.
You got better athletes now, so you deaden the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous to me, Ray. I'm sorry. That's just ridiculous to me. I'm sure there are some traditionalists that maybe love this idea of like, hey, yeah, there's more fielding plays now.
Yeah.
But I
more
don't
doubles
get it.
and triples instead of home runs.
Great. People love it when their team gets out.
Yeah, it's
No, people cheer just as much for doubles as they do for
home runs.
For home runs. Yeah, it's a great job, MLB. You continue to impress with your dumber than crap ideas.
Yeah.
God, is there anything they can do right this year? Anything?
Yeah, it's probably not. Even though they're now talking about delaying.
We need more web gems. Dead in the ball.
Yeah. They are talking about shortening the season by 8 games just because they might start late because of COVID.
That's okay. I always said baseball should be shorter anyway, but
no, I agree. It should go back to 154 games.
What are they doing? I mean, so out of touch.
Yeah.
Did they ask the players about this, or did they just do it?
They probably just did it. They probably just did it.
It just kills me. I hope the MLB Players Association has something to say about this. Maybe they're like, I'll tell you what, if the players all want it, I'll be like, all right. If the players all want it,
yeah,
then I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's different.
I can
I
kind
mean,
of
the pitcher. I'm sure the pitchers want it.
Of course, the pitchers want it. But here's the thing I'll say on it, Ray. It's not about the ball changing. It's about evolving pitching now.
Yeah.
Right. So you got better batters. Evolve pitching.
Yeah.
Okay. Or evolve like don't let teams cheat and know what pitch is coming next.
Yeah. I mean,
how
that'll
about
help.
that rule?
That'll help.
Idiots.
And probably the computerized strike zone will probably help. You know,
move the strike zone, move home plate back 10 feet.
Yes,
they won't do that. But no. I'm just saying, like why don't you? If guys are getting more home runs, pitchers have to get better. That's how a sport evolves.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'll spare everybody my hockey reference, which I always have.
Yeah.
But just let the sport evolve.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Too many home runs. Too many home runs, Ray. Yeah. Oh my God, that's so stupid saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's
too many home runs.
Real hard sometimes being a baseball fan.
There's too many home runs in baseball.
Oh, I hate Rob Manfred.
So dumb.
So
does anybody want less home runs? I mean, is there anybody out there that wants less home runs? I understand the obvious, yes, against my team, but does anybody want less home runs in baseball? Can anybody find me someone outside pitchers that don't want more home runs?
Yeah. No.
Stupid. Just incredibly stupid.
Oh, God. But, yeah, so baseball.
There better be some great fielding this year.
I had it again.
There better be some unbelievable fielding this year, Ray.
Yeah, it's just, I just don't know. I just don't know anymore. I just don't know. And that just basically, that sums up my life at this point. So.
like I said, I get the I do get the logic, but it's just like, no.
Yeah, on average, they say most home runs now will travel 2 less feet. So all those wall scrapers will now probably be caught at the warning track. So
great. Travels.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything else. This is dumb. I'm sorry. My opinion is I don't like it. Understanding the reason they're doing it. I really do. I don't like it. They need to.
Yeah, I mean, how about the universal DH? Expanding the playoffs. Do the stuff that made people happy last year. Ugh.
Actually, Ray, I love it when my pitcher strikes out every game.
Every game
where he bunts.
Yes, the pitcher who hits 0.67.
Yeah. Yes, that's my favorite part of the game. I live for it.
They go 3 for 60 on the year. If they're
how
lucky.
about this? How about that? Then for the pitchers, they do the opposite and they undeaden the ball.
That would be funny.
So
special balls against pitchers.
No. Actually, they'll make the ball bigger. They're gonna throw a beach ball.
There you go.
All right, and they're stupid, man.
Unbelievable. But yeah, so that does it for our sports section. As baseball running out of gas, and so are we. But yeah, that brings us to our
baseball's pushing their car up a hill with a tire iron on it, wondering why the wheel's not moving.
Ugh, unbelievable. But yes, that brings us to our mashup now.
Mashup.
Yes, mashup. So of course we talked about very early in the show the Jimmy Woo spinoff potentially for Marvel. So that made Lee come up with the question of what athletes, specifically what 2 athletes would we like to see get their own spin-off sort of show. For me, the obvious answers are guys like Brady and Gronk, or even Brady and Mahomes, the past and the future, or I guess still sort of the present. Obviously, those are the ones who jump to the top of the list. Lee, what are some of your thoughts? I'll come up with a couple other ones in the meantime.
Yeah, I think Brady and Gronk is the obvious one, so I wasn't going to use this. I like the dynamic of two guys that don't like each other, the kind of the odd couple scenario. So Brady and Gronk would be really fun.
Right.
But I started thinking, like, what happens if Ovechkin and Crosby are together? And they have to team up on something. And we've seen these commercials in the past where they troll each other. Mm-hmm. I picked those two. I think Ovechkin would be the star of that show because, Crosby's kind of boring. Mm-hmm. But I could see Ovechkin and Crosby. And then I started thinking about other sports, like basketball. What if you put LeBron in the same room as Steph Curry?
Yeah.
So I like these kind of off-color. Or you do, like, two bench players together watching the game.
Right.
From opposite teams.
Yeah.
That could be really funny too. But I love Ovechkin and Crosby. I would totally watch that. Ovech Crosby would probably be the name of the show, like WandaVision.
Yeah. I'm trying to
Crosvechkin.
Yeah, Sid and Alex. I don't know. Sid and Ovi.
Yeah, Sid and Ovi.
Yeah, Sid and Ovi.
Ovi and Sid.
Yeah, Ovi and Sid. There you go. Ovi and Sid.
Yes, Ovi and Sid. And then what was that? Apocalypse-Earthblood. That's what I would name it.
Or Apocalypse-Earthblood. That's the title of the show.
Ovi and Sid, Apocalypse-Earthblood.
Yeah,
I mean, Brady and Gronk make so much. Or just, I don't think you'd do Brady and another quarterback. What I would do is all the other quarterbacks.
Unless it would be funny if it was Brady versus like Brady, Foles, and Manning, and he's just kind of like 7 rings,
great.
And they're like,
That's
but
great.
not against us.
Yeah, we have 3.
Yeah.
That would be.
I mean,
great.
Brady and Peyton, like obviously in their heyday.
Oh, actually, yeah, Eli and Peyton.
Would be a
Eli
lot of
Peyton
fun.
and Archie, which they've done plenty of commercials together.
Yes.
That would be really fun to watch.
Yeah.
I always love watching. Eli and Peyton had another great Super Bowl commercial this year with what was that for? It was night before the Super Bowl.
Yes.
With Beast Mode, but I forget what they're
Marshawn
doing.
Lynch.
Was it Doritos? I forgot. It's chips or something like that.
Yes.
But it's a great commercial. I love watching Eli and Peyton together.
Yeah, I'd want Marshawn Lynch with Pete Carroll.
Yeah. Hey, do you think I should go to the kitchen? Hold on, I'm gonna send someone else.
Yeah.
I'm right here. No, and then they trip and just break their leg on the way out there. Oh, it didn't work.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's kind of funny though. Like the old school rivalries. Like a lot of players when we were growing up, and even in the 70s and stuff, like you had players legitimately hated other players. Now, because of a lot of social media and all this other stuff, there's fun rivalries, but you don't have that hate, that real hate. Yeah. Like George Brett hated the Yankees and Greg Nettles, like Greg Nettles, like back in the day and stuff. Like you don't have that hate now. Like even nowadays, George Brett hates all the Yankees from the 70s and stuff, except for.
It's that, and because player movement is so much more common. Like you don't get a lifelong player too often anymore. That like I can tell you, Sidney Crosby hates the Flyers, but he's also been in Pittsburgh his whole life. But players move so much now.
Yes.
And as you said, social media, and then there's just a mutual respect. I mean, athletes have really evolved.
Yeah.
When I think about these great rivalries of the past, you're talking about players that down a steak and guzzle beer after every game. This is a different type of
the
athlete
good old
in a
days.
different time. Right. You know what I mean? Like you talk about these guys, when you think about that, it's a different era in sport. But now that players move so much and they go to college and juniors and, there's so much interaction. I think on the field of play, there's absolutely hatred. But I think once they get off, there's just a mutual respect that exists between most of these athletes. There's still some legit hatred, but I think that's what ends up happening. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to do some of these classic shows, you know what I mean? With like guys with bipolar disorder, undiagnosed bipolar disorder, put them in the same room as somebody else. Like you get Terry Bradshaw in there against any other quarterback.
Terry's already got his own reality show.
I know. But yeah, I mean, like I'd love to see like a Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And what's his name from the Pacers? I can't believe I'm blanking.
Oh, Reggie Miller.
Yeah, that would be good. Or Reggie Miller and the Knicks.
Yeah, like John Starks or something.
Whole
yeah.
Knicks.
Yeah, exactly.
Just him sitting in a room, just What's up, guys?
Well, and even like guys like guys who like Jordan like ticked off in his career, like Charles Oakley and stuff, like Oakley versus Jordan, and it's just called Jordan. It's just called. I took offense to that, and that's
I Dream of Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan. I took offense to that.
And I took offense to that.
Yeah, and
I Dream of Jordan.
Yeah,
and that's everyone else in Jordan. I Dream of Jordan. Remember, folks. Jordan. We talked about the goats earlier. Jordan's one of many goats in his sport.
Yeah,
right?
well, that's the thing that we
You know
talked
what I
about that earlier. Yeah, too. Obviously,
Yeah.
like basketball, and again, this is because there's a lack of parity in basketball. Dynasties are very common in basketball, and you have a lot of guys who dominate their eras. Whether it's Wilt, whether it's Russell and Bird, whether it's Magic, Jordan, and you kind of see the passing of the torch, and then Jordan passed it to Kobe, and Kobe kind of passed it to LeBron.
I took offense to that.
And Jordan took offense to that. In fact, I heard Jordan took offense to Tom Brady winning a 7th Super Bowl, and he's actually lacing up with the Lakers right now as we speak for one more shot at a 7th ring so he could tie Tom Brady.
Jordan rides the bus to Jordan rides the bench.
Yes.
I did it. You didn't play a game. I did it.
Did it. You know, though, I'll say this. Maybe not now, but a few years ago, maybe I could still see Jordan coming off the bench for 6 or 7 minutes and still making a shot.
I am sure that Jordan probably sent Brady a text and said, "Way to go."
Oh yeah.
Now
those guys, I'm sure they're I'm sure there's a club or something. The Jordans, Montanas, Gretzky's,
You want to know how serious of an accomplishment this is for Brady? People are comparing him now to woo!
Oh, Ric Flair. Yeah, I mean,
compared to Ric Flair with his whatever 12, 15 belts, it's like
16.
It's like
but yeah, I mean,
16,
that's the thing.
That's how you know this is real.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. It's again, there's got to be a club or something, and I'm sure Bill Russell with I think it was 11 rings in his career, and
Look, I equate it to presidents, Ray. I equate to presidents. There's so few people that have been president.
Yeah.
So only presidents really know what other presidents have been through.
Yeah.
With championship caliber of this level, there's only a few players in the world that can understand.
Yeah.
So I am sure there is a club where these guys belong to.
Yeah, like I said, it's Jordan, Gretzky, Montana.
Yeah. I'd love to see that
Russell,
group chat.
Bird.
Love to see that group text.
Yeah. I would
okay,
say
guys, got another
that
one.
Group is
God
less
damn
than
it, Brady.
10. Less than 10 guys living right now. That group is less than 10.
Yeah. Think about that.
Yeah.
Right?
So.
That's incredible when you think about it.
It is.
Of all the humans on the planet, less than 10.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. So, but we want to know what you guys think. What kind of spin-off show would you guys like to see?
Yes.
What kind of athletes?
And
what kind
Ray and Lee is taken. We've already done it.
Yes, we're already here. But yeah, so thank you all for listening. As always, we always appreciate it. At least at the top of the show. Anybody you want to have join the group, have them join the group. Bring them in. Invite your friends. It's for everybody. I promise. Lee doesn't get on a soapbox every week, guys. I promise. No, I'm joking. I'm busting you, buddy.
You're gonna pay for that after the show.
Oh yeah, Lee. Trust me, folks. We are gonna have a knockdown, drag out
foot
fight.
hurts. I can't fight right now because my foot hurts.
Suddenly his foot hurts.
Just
well,
you
my
wait.
foot hurts
just
too.
You wait. Yeah, right. Okay, I'll come over with a cortisone shot, buddy. We'll see how manly you are.
Like two old guys just fighting. It's terrible. And then we'll go get a cheesesteak afterwards because that's how it works. So that's why we're best friends. But yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We really do mean it. We'll see you all next week with more Geeks Who Like Sports. Thanks for listening. For Lee, I'm Ray. Good night, everybody.